Aita for telling my wife my childhood friend will never forgive her for what she did. My wife, 32F, and I, 34M, have been married for 6 years, together for 10. We have a 4-year-old son. A few years ago, my close childhood friend, 34F, got married. We've been extremely close since we were kids, both our families were dysfunctional in different ways. At one point, my dad cheated on my mom with her mom, they got married, divorced a year later, and we basically ended up abandoned by both sides. Through all that, we became really close with each other. She even has 2 tattoos that relate to our bond. I would have gotten a tattoo too, but I'm sort of scared of needles. My wife was actually close to my friend too, and never showed signs of being insecure about our friendship, until postpartum hit. After our son was born, she really struggled. Her emotions were all over the place, and she became extremely insecure about my relationship with my friend. I was supposed to be man of honor at my friend's wedding, help plan things, and be a big part of the ceremony. But my wife was so anxious and uncomfortable, she begged me not to attend. It made me really sad, but I chose my wife. I told my friend I couldn't go and told her why. She was really hurt by it. Not angry, just really sad, but said she understood. A couple months later, my wife fully recovered and apologized, both to me and to my friend. I forgave her. My friend, however, didn't. When my wife reached out to my friend to apologize, my friend was polite but direct. She said she never wanted to speak to her again. She didn't yell or make a scene, she just drew a boundary. Honestly, I get it. It was a once-in-a-lifetime day, and she'd leaned on me for years, and I bailed. I still feel guilty about it. My friend and I still talk regularly. Nothing inappropriate, we're just close, always have been. Recently, my wife asked if there was any chance my friend would forgive her. I told her the truth, no. That ship sailed. My wife got sort of quiet and looked sad and hasn't brought it up again, but I wonder if I was too blunt. Aita for not giving my wife hope and just telling her forgiveness probably isn't happening. Comments. Commenter 1. Asking out of genuine curiosity. How is this going to work? Is your bestie gonna skip all life milestones and celebrations on your end? Or is it expected that she will be there and your wife is uncomfortable? Is it safe to assume your bestie isn't involved in your child's life? I'm just trying to fully understand the situation. Commenter 2. Great point. Info OP, we need to know what your expectations are on how you intend to manage this friendship moving forward. Commenter 3. I have the feeling he'll be there for the friend and leave the wife at home. Commenter 4. TBH, I think this is your fault. Sometimes friends can't make it to weddings no matter how close. But you definitely showed that this was your wife's fault and not your family decision to support your wife during a hard time. Your friend didn't need to know that your wife was feeling jealous and insecure, and that's the reason you couldn't go. The reason you couldn't go was you had to be there for your family. TBH, you painted your wife as the bad guy. You and your wife should have figured out how to have you go, whether that be a friend stay with her or you take pictures. Or whatever other compromise. But your friend shouldn't have been aware that this was your wife's fault. But you didn't seem afraid to throw your wife under the bus. But you chose your wife on the wedding day. This tells me you weren't a good partner. Sure, you didn't go to appease your wife. But communicating that to your friend isn't being a good husband. Being a grown-up means making hard decisions. Not just choosing your wife and painting her as the bad guy when things don't go your way. NTA for what you're asking, but you're not a supportive partner or friend. Being a good friend would also be showing her how important family is. Her wedding, her new family, is just as important in yours. A good friend would understand that and forgive. But because you painted your wife as the bad guy, now your friend does too. This is on you. Your wife even apologized because she knew in hindsight she was wrong. Your wife is more adult than you and your friend. Commenter 5. Exactly. This is why I think I vote YTA. He let his wife take the fall while also claiming that he chose her. He begrudgingly stayed home with her because she pleaded enough. If he had been taking her PPD seriously, and acknowledging it as the medical condition that it is, he wouldn't have ever let the friend blame her. Sorry, my wife won't let me come to the wedding because she is recovering from a heart attack. What a bitch, right? Doesn't have quite the same ring to it. It always should have been addressed as him making the choice. I'm so sorry, my wife is having some medical issues since the birth of our child and just cannot leave them at this time. I really hope you understand. And then send her a big fat wedding gift chunk of cash as a gift and move on. If friend is a real friend, they would never presume to believe their wedding more important than the medical needs of their friend's family. Source, me, I've been a bride, and a mom, and have had PPD. I know I'd have been nothing but understanding as a bride in the scenario above if the party member framed it as it should have been framed. Update. Wow, I didn't expect the sheer gravity of responses I got. Reading through everyone's perspectives really opened my eyes. A lot of you reminded me that my wife went through a really tough mental condition postpartum and, regardless of how much it hurt my friend, my wife doesn't deserve to be punished forever for it. So a couple of days ago, I had a long, honest talk with my friend. I told her that my wife and I are a package deal, and while I understood why she was so hurt and disappointed, my wife had already repented and apologized enough. I told her that if she truly valued our friendship, she needed to hash it out with my wife so we could all move forward. It was a really emotional conversation. My friend was very sad at first, and we talked a lot about the past and how things had changed. Eventually, she agreed. Later that day, she called my wife, apologized for holding the grudge, and accepted my wife's apology too, and they had a nice happy talk. My wife was honestly so relieved and happy, it felt like a huge weight was lifted. During my talk with my friend, she also said she really misses hanging out with me like we used to before all this marriage drama. She said she would accept the apology, but she just wants to spend more one-to-one time with me again. I accepted that, told her I appreciate her honesty, and assured her that I still value our friendship deeply. She seemed really happy about it. So yeah, that's probably my final update. My wife is happy, my friend has let go of the resentment, and I feel like I finally did right by both of them. Thank you all for your advice, it really helped me see what I needed to do. Comments. Commenter 1. Okay, so from the previous post, it sounded like your wife was going through postpartum, dealing with a lot of insecurity and mental illness, and she needed you at her side. Meanwhile, there is this other woman that is not your wife that has tattoos related to your bond that is very close to you. It's kind of impossible for her not to feel a type of way about it deep down. Regardless of all that fact, your wife was going through some really horrible times birthing your kid. Are men this incapable of realizing the toll childbirth takes on the woman's body? Because in the first post, you literally sounded like you blame your wife as well and resented her for needing you to do your job as her partner. Still, she apologized to you and your friend, but your friend still held a grudge unnecessarily, might I add, because when it came to your wife, none of it was done maliciously. You had to basically give your friend an ultimatum in order to accept your wife's apology. You do realize she wasn't going to take that apology. If you didn't phrase it to her, she would also lose you, right? And it's proven when after all that she still requests to have only one-on-one time with you. Sir, you are a husband and a father. Like, are we reading the same thing? Where is the emotional maturity everybody's talking about with you? It literally took Reddit to push you to use your brain to realize as a married man and a father you should put your wife's and kid first. Your wife deserves better, cause what the hell is this? Just know. Commenter 2. These are just two very codependent people who are refusing to grow up and realize they now have responsibilities outside of each other that come first. For OP it's his wife and child, and for the friend it should be her own husband. They need therapy yesterday to actually be able to have a normal friend relationship, but that's the thing with codependent people, they don't want to. Commenter 3. I honestly have no idea why they even married other people. This level of codependency is out there. Commenter 4. Taking bets now. He leaves wife for friend in less than a year. Commenter 5. They're already having an affair. Stories number 2. Wife deleted a message from my ex telling me that she was pregnant 5 years ago. It's been almost 2 weeks since I found out. We've did the tests and she's mine. My ex had sent me a message a couple weeks before giving birth telling me about everything. My then GF and present wife saw that my ex sent me a message and deleted it, then blocked her, apparently without reading it. Ex took that as me not wanting to be involved and raised our daughter all alone. For 5 fucking years. My daughter is turning 5 in a month and I haven't even met her. Every time I think about how much I missed out on, I just lose it. I know I must focus on what I've gained instead of what I've lost, but damn, it's hard. It's taken me 2 hours just to write this out. Don't even want to start on what my ex had to go through alone and the desperation to reach out to my mother for help when she hates her nearly more than me. My wife says she's remorseful. That she was just very immature at the time and didn't think it could be that important, so much so she forgot about it. I've never loved anyone more than my wife. She supported me through so much. I believe that she actually feels bad and regrets it. She's pregnant plus 21 weeks pregnant with our first child together. We're currently separated while I deal with everything, but I don't know how we'll move forward after this. Comments. Commenter 1. How did you find out? 2 weeks ago. Reply. My ex asked my mother for some cash for our daughter and then my mum chewed me out for being a deadbeat. Asked her what she was talking about and she told me about my ex and how I blocked her. Mentioned it to my wife who admitted there was a time where she deleted a message from my ex and blocked her. Commenter 2. Part of me doubts your wife didn't read the message. If it were me, and some guy my wife used to date texted her, I'd read it to know if my wife were cheating or WTF was going on. I highly doubt she didn't know your ex was pregnant with your child. Commenter 3. Not quite sure how someone can delete a message without reading it. Commenter 4. Yeah, I don't buy for a second that she didn't read it. Commenter 5. I'd forgive your wife, as she was immature and made a mistake. And, as you said, it's not like she even read the message and was deliberately trying to hide the pregnancy from you. And you couldn't have been together too long at the time, if your ex was pregnant. So, yeah, it was wrong. But put that in the context of the happy 5 years you've had together since. And that's especially with your upcoming child together. You're already going to have to get used to having one broken family, no point in making it two. Frankly, I put more responsibility on the ex. She sends one text, after waiting until a couple of weeks before she was due to give birth, that, as far as she knows, you ignore and, that's it. She just gives up and decides to have and raise the baby all on her own. I'm sorry, but there had to have been other ways to contact you and make sure that, if you didn't want an emotional relationship to your child, that you were at least compelled to provide financial support. So her going through these past 5 years alone is on her. But what's done is done. Now that's the time for you to put your anger aside and focus on being the best father that you can to both of your children. Reply. In all honesty, I was a shit boyfriend to her, especially towards the end, so I can't blame her for not trying harder to contact me. That's on me. I do want to forgive her. As I said, I believe she was just being childish in the moment, but damn, that was some bad timing. I'm not entirely sure I can forget about this. Update. Got some messages asking for updates, and since my post got some attention, though I should publicly update. Long story short, I met with my ex last week just to properly explain myself and discuss the whole what nows. It didn't end up being productive and mostly filled with awkward silence with a few miniature arguments. Towards the end she said that she'd been talking to a lawyer and didn't want me to be involved and will be seeking full custody of our daughter with no visitation, as well as suing me for back child support and getting me on child support. So that was fun. To be clear, I was always going to provide more than my fair share for any child of mine. I really don't know how any of this works, but I haven't received anything from the court or something, so it could have just been a threat, but she seemed serious. Regardless, I decided to find myself a lawyer to help me instead of waiting around, and eventually got linked with an old friend's brother whom I'm meeting tomorrow, which is great. My wife and I are trying to work things out. Due to the lawyer court situation, financially speaking, we couldn't get an actual therapist, but my wife's pastor offered to provide marriage counseling for us. We only had 2 sessions before the family drama broke out and we temporarily put counseling on pause. Basically, the thing about my wife deleting the message leaked out to the rest of the family, which has led my wife getting uncivil messages from a couple family members. My lovely older sister also decided to add to the fire by posting about this on her FB. My wife has locked herself at home since and is taking everything quite badly, since even her friends now know and have distanced themselves from her. I'm actually quite worried about it, but at least her mom is there with her and I try to check on her regularly. It's all just overwhelming. When I'm not thinking about my daughter, I'm thinking about my ex. When I'm not thinking about my ex, I'm thinking about my family drama, and when I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about my marriage and the pregnancy. And there's still work, so it's been a really terrible week. Finding it hard to maintain optimism and excitement for my daughter when all this has happened. Just a shit situation all round. This ended up being more of a vent, so sorry about that. I probably won't give another update in future unless there's good news, so just thanks for the support. Comments. Commenter 1. Did you bother to press your wife on if she read the text or not? That was one of the most pressing questions posed in the last post. Commenter 2. By that time they must have only been dating a few months. Pretty messed up to block someone on someone's phone whom you went on possibly only a couple dates with. Update. It's quite a long story, so the more condensed version is that I've met my daughter, my ex, and I handled the custody and support agreement ourselves, still signed off by the court. We're both committed to making this co-parenting thing work and it's been going well so far. My wife and I are back at home and both excited about her nearing due date. We've decided to move on. The longer version, the last update ended with my ex threatening to fight me in court. Well, the lawyer I'd arranged suggested we give mediation a try and set that up with her lawyers and this mediator. Overall, the mediation went quite shit and seemed to be more detrimental to us ever cooperating. We only had 2 actual sessions and both were just filled with unnecessary fighting and no resolution. Funny enough, it was the chaos at the mediation that kind of proved to both of us we weren't interested in fighting each other indefinitely, and she reached out late in the evening after the second mediation asking to meet up the next day. In that meeting, we talked things out and listened to one another. Sorted through some baggage from our relationship as well as spoke about what exactly had been going on the past 5 years. Hours-long conversation, but it was totally worth it. We agreed that we'd make it work and put our daughter in the forefront. A meeting was arranged for me to drive over and see my daughter face to face, and I did. At the time I wasn't introduced properly to her as her father, and she obviously was cagey around this random dude around, but it was still great seeing her that first time. She was as seeing someone to help with my transition into her life, and I've since been properly introduced to her and she started calling me Papa, so things are going stunningly smooth and she's coping really well with it all. Plus my ex has floated around the idea that if she could find a better job where I am, she'd consider moving, so distance isn't too big of a problem, though that's still a big if. For now, I'll just keep driving up to her until we're acquainted enough to allow her to make the trip to me. The last update on my wife left things at my sister posting about everything in my family fighting with my wife. My sister has removed the post and apologized to my wife, although not sincere but still an apology. Still ongoing, but attempts of reconciling my family and wife are going more or less well. My wife momentarily moved to stay with her parent to get away from everything for about a month, but has since moved back to the house with me as we're soon expecting the birth of our child in the up and coming weeks. All extremely excited over that, and we've worked through our issues. I'm sure most of you will be disappointed by this, but I do 100% believe my wife and trust that she isn't some conniving person. She's still the woman I love, and we're all to blame for the circumstance that led to this whole situation. All we can do is focus on the future. Big thanks to everyone who's offered their support and wishes as well as advice. I truly do appreciate all of it. And that's it. Signed off, a happy dad of almost 2. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm sure most of you will be disappointed by this, but I do 100% believe my wife. Not disappointed, buddy, just disbelieving, but if you thinking this keeps you warm at night and your family together, then more strength to you. Commenter 2. I think this'll be one of those things that festers. Behavior such as that is indicative of an awful personality, no matter how well she hides it, and something else will eventually be the straw to break the camel's back. Just lots of emotional turmoil until then. Luckily for OP's wife, her current bargaining chip is being heavily pregnant. Hard for a man to leave his wife in that position. Commenter 3. I want to add, no one is disappointed about a relationship working out. Many of us might be skeptical about the wife not reading, but no one genuine wants to see a relationship break apart. Commenter 4. It's great that you've reconciled with the woman you love. I wish you well with both of your children and in your marriage. That said, she absolutely read the message from your ex. No woman in the history of the world would look through her partner's messages, see one from his ex, and delete it without reading. That's just not how people behave. Even in the most poorly written piece of fan fic that would stand out as a ridiculous contrivance. It's perfectly okay to forgive everyone, especially yourself. What matters now is where you go from here. You've rightfully put your children first. Just try to make sure that you look out for yourself as well. Good luck and congratulations. Stories number 3. My coworker keeps reporting me to HR for being too quiet. I'm a 29-year-old woman who started a new job back in March at a mid-sized marketing agency. I work in analytics, so I spend most of my day in spreadsheets, presentations, and data dashboards. I'm pretty introverted and like to keep my head down and just get my work done. About 2 months in, I started getting weird vibes from a coworker I'll call Erin, who's in her mid-30s. She's on the creative team, and we only interact maybe twice a week in meetings. But I noticed she'd make snide comments like, well, I guess we'll never know what Caitlin thinks, she never speaks, or someone's too cool to join the Slack banter. I just laughed it off until she reported me to HR. Her complaint was that I wasn't collaborative, that I was emotionally distant, and that my silence in meetings created discomfort for the team. I was stunned when HR called me in. My manager backed me up and said I was one of the most reliable and focused members on the team. HR agreed but said they had to document the concern. I thought that would be the end of it, but nope. A few weeks ago, she did it again. This time, she claimed that I undermine team morale because I don't join in water cooler talk or send emojis in the group Slack. I wish I were joking. HR actually asked if I'd be open to being more socially present at work. I work 40+ hours a week, deliver clean, high-quality work, and meet every deadline. But apparently, I'm the villain because I'm not performing cheerleader duties in the group chat. I feel like I'm being punished for not fitting into some fake office sitcom dynamic. This isn't high school, and I didn't sign up for a group project 24/7. I just want to do my job without being micromanaged for not sending gifts. Has anyone else dealt with a coworker who thinks you owe them your personality? Stories number 4. Aita for refusing to let my stepsister move in after she got kicked out, even though my dad says I should be the bigger person. I, 26F, live alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment. I got it after years of saving, working retail, and finishing my degree part-time. It's nothing fancy, but it's my peace, my space, and the first real independence I've had. My dad remarried when I was 18, and his wife has a daughter, Kayla, 25F. We were the same age, but couldn't be more different. She was always popular, always had friends and parties, and made it very clear I wasn't her real sister. She'd mock my clothes, my books, even my voice. I basically stayed out of her way. We haven't spoken much in years, just the occasional forced small talk at holidays. Suddenly, last week, I get a call from my dad saying Kayla and her boyfriend broke up, she got kicked out of their place, and she needs somewhere to stay just until she figures things out. I said no instantly. This is my space. She's never been kind to me, she's never supported me, and now I'm supposed to turn my life upside down for her. My dad went off on me, saying I'm being cold, selfish, and that real family doesn't turn their back when things get hard. He told me Kayla's really trying to change and this would be a good opportunity to start over. I told him I'm not interested in playing rehab facility for someone who treated me like garbage and only comes around when she needs something. Now I've got my stepmom texting me guilt trips, my dad barely speaking to me, and Kayla posting vague "some people ain't loyal" crap on social media. Aita for protecting my peace. Stories number 5. My 29F boyfriend, 35M, told me to leave his family's house after I went to the store with his sister. I'm not sure what I did. My boyfriend, 35M, and I recently got back together after a breakup. There's history and we're trying to rebuild trust. He has a young daughter from a previous relationship, and this weekend he invited me to spend time at his parents' house with him, his daughter, and his extended family. I hadn't seen his family in a while, so I was excited. We spent the day swimming, fishing, and playing games. I was with him, his daughter, his parents, siblings, nieces, nephews, all of them. That night, once the kids were in bed, he, his sister Ashley, and I went out to grab dinner and a drink, then came back and went to bed. The grandparents were home with the kids. The next morning, the kids woke us up, then left the room, and my boyfriend and I had some intimate time. After that, we were all hanging out and I played Uno with the kids and then went outside to play baseball with them. At one point, his sister Ashley said she was going to the store to get food for lunch and dinner. I thought it would be nice to help, so I asked my boyfriend if it was okay if I went with her. He said yes. We were gone maybe 45 minutes to an hour. On the way home, Ashley and I stopped at a drive-thru for a drink, then went back. By the time we returned, it was raining and everyone was inside. When I walked in and went to see my boyfriend, he was cold and clearly upset. I asked what was wrong, and he told me I was invited to spend time with him and his daughter, not run errands with Ashley. He said I'd been gone too long, that I didn't prioritize him or his family, and that I shouldn't have left. Then he told me to leave. I was totally blindsided. I tried to explain that I asked him if it was okay to go, that I was just trying to help, and that I genuinely didn't think I was doing anything wrong. But he was shut down and clearly done with me being there. So I packed my things and left. He didn't say goodbye. While I was packing my car, another one of his sisters came outside and told me I shouldn't leave, which only made me feel even more embarrassed, like the whole family knew he was upset with me. It's now been several hours, and I haven't heard from him at all. I'm really sad and confused. I feel like I was trying to be helpful and present, and that I spent meaningful time with his daughter and family the whole weekend. I even asked him before I left. But now I'm questioning myself and wondering, did I do something? Am I being a bad partner and not prioritizing him and his daughter? Would love any thoughts, perspectives. I'm feeling really hurt and don't know if I'm just missing something obvious here that I should have done differently. Edit. Thank you for all the responses. I noticed there were a lot of questions, so hopefully this will provide some additional context. I did not cheat on him. He emotionally cheated on me, though, like many of you have pointed out, I also believe it may have been physical. When I got back from the store and asked what was wrong, I also asked why he said yes to me going if it was going to be a problem. His response was, I didn't want to say no in front of my family. In my state, you can't get alcohol at a drive-thru. There was no alcohol involved in the grocery run. We got Diet Cokes from McDonald's on the drive home and it took maybe 5 minutes total because of the line. To clarify, it was me, Ashley, and my boyfriend at dinner the night before. Not just me and Ashley. The children were all asleep. Top comment. Commenter 1. This is a major overreaction of him asking you to leave, and you didn't do anything wrong. I'd be really embarrassed honestly, and be questioning if this is someone I wanted to be with. I hate to jump on that train, but this is such a minor thing, and I don't even know if you should have had to apologize. You spent all day prior hanging out. Commenter 2. Major overreaction. However, right, wrong, or indifferent, I never stay where I'm not welcome. I would have left without another word, for good. If this was supposed to be a get back together rebuild trust period and he chose to act that way, I would conclude the results were in and he decided we were permanently done. Nobody should act that way towards a supposed partner and ever expect to be seen again. Commenter 3. Well, on the bright side, you saw his red flag pretty quick after getting back together. Can't believe his family isn't calling out on this childish behavior. To answer your question, no hun, it's not you who is a bad partner. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my brother's fiancé in front of everyone that she was being rude and disrespectful in my own house after I tried to stay polite the whole evening and she just kept pushing it. This happened last night, and honestly, I didn't sleep well because I kept going over it in my head. I hosted a small dinner at my place for close family, my parents, my brother, his fiancé, and a couple of mutual friends. Nothing crazy, just food, wine, and catching up. I'd spent the whole day cleaning, cooking, and trying to make everything nice because I don't host that often and wanted it to go smoothly. From the moment my brother's fiancé walked in, her energy was just off. She didn't greet me, barely made eye contact, and acted like she didn't want to be there. I brushed it off, figuring maybe she had a rough day or something. But then she started in with the little comments, stuff like, oh, I didn't realize paper napkins were still a thing. Did you mean for the chicken to be this dry, or is it just your style? I guess not everyone's cut out for entertaining. I kept laughing awkwardly and trying to play it off, but it wasn't just once or twice, she kept it going all night. And it wasn't playful teasing, it was snide and clearly meant to embarrass me in front of everyone. A few people looked uncomfortable, but no one said anything. Eventually, I just snapped. I looked right at her and said, if you're gonna keep being rude and disrespectful in my house, you're welcome to leave. You could hear a pin drop. My brother looked shocked. She said nothing. The rest of the dinner was super quiet and tense. Later, my mom texted me saying I was rude and could have handled it better. She thinks I should have just pulled her aside or ignored it for the sake of keeping the peace. My brother hasn't reached out yet, and I don't know if she said anything to him. I get that I could have handled it more gracefully, but I also feel like I was pushed to that point. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't insult her, I just asked her to stop being rude in my own space. Aita for finally saying something out loud instead of just silently taking it like I usually do. Top comment. Commenter 1. NTA. She was disrespecting you publicly. You had the right to call out her behavior publicly. Reply, I honestly didn't even raise my voice, I just said what needed to be said. My house, my boundaries. Commenter 2. Tell your mom that when she disrespects her that way at her house then she can deal with it in her way. As far as you are concerned, this is your home and you will deal with it your way. Commenter 3. NTA. If someone's in your home, the least they can do is be respectful. Reply. I get everyone has bad days, but there's a line and she crossed it. It's my home, not a place to be disrespected. Stories number 7. I 17M brought my dad to my GF 17F house for a man-to-man talk. Her dad requested and now he feels disrespected and I want to break up because of this. What to do? I 17M have a girlfriend. Andrea 17F have been together for a year. We are both in high school and are about to start our senior year this fall. I plan on going to a robotics AI program for college and I plan to apply to as many colleges as possible, but all this costs money. While I do have a college fund, the deal was for me to come up with money to apply to the schools. My uncle has a mechanic shop and my parents have 2 rentals. This past school year I took a mechanic shop course and was able to get my ASE in engine repair, A1. My dad pays me to mow the lawns for the rentals every week and I work at my uncle's shop Tuesday through Saturday and I mow lawns on Sundays, which only allows me to have Mondays off and partial Sundays. Now because of my schedule I have been seeing my GF later in the day around 6 p.m. and if I work the next day I am home by like 9-10 p.m. But on Sunday once I am done working and showered her and I usually spend the rest of the day Sunday together and Monday. I guess this has been an issue for her dad. I got a message from him on Thursday that on Sunday when I come over he, myself and my girlfriend's brother 19M are going to have a man-to-man talk. When I asked about what he said, it was time that we speak as men and it was a non-negotiable. I asked my girlfriend and all she said was that her dad isn't letting up on the talk and asked why am I over late or only certain days and why am I just driving around with her. Which is weird to me because I work and my girlfriend should have told him this or her mom because she always asks me how work is going. She even came for an oil change like 2 weeks ago. Like what got me is that we don't go driving around, we drive to the movies, we drive to get something to eat or go to a friend's house, but we don't go driving around. I told my dad what was happening and asked him if he can come with me. So yesterday after work my dad and I drove to my girlfriend's house and they were a bit surprised. It was all tense because my girlfriend just looked at me and walked away. Her dad was grilling in the back and we all just had small talk until my dad just said okay, let's have the talk. My girlfriend's dad was trying to avoid it, saying things like well maybe some other time, maybe it's not the best time. Well y'all don't know my dad and he doesn't let shit go for anything, it's really annoying. So he brought it up again. My girlfriend's dad again avoided the conversation and my dad told me to go inside so he can talk to him and went inside. Andrea and her mom were really quiet but her mom and aunt were polite. About 20 minutes later my dad comes in the house, made some small talk with my girlfriend's mom, aunt and brother and we left. I asked my dad what happened and all he said he will tell me later after talking to mom. But I have been getting nothing but spam messages from my GF saying that her dad feels disrespected that I brought my dad and I am not mature enough to have a man-to-man conversation with him. She wants me to come today to talk alone to her dad and not bring anyone. Usually I would be at her house already, but I feel like I need to talk to my dad first. Also it feels like all this is too much drama. I only have like 1.5 days off and I don't want to fill it with stuff like this and it's making me want to just break up with her. She even has our friends sending messages saying I was weird to bring my dad and I am missing the point of all this. Like what point? I don't see anything positive talking to her dad. For the past year he has always ignored me outside of hellos. Should I go over to her house and just have this talk with her dad? Should I just wait to talk to my dad first and then go? I feel like breaking up is just the best thing because why does he really want to talk to me so bad? Again, it's literally my only day off and I just wanted to hang with my GF and friends and now I am just sitting here in my room on a verge of a crash out. TLDR, my girlfriend's dad wanted a man-to-man talk with him, girlfriend's brother and me, but I brought my dad somewhat called out her dad. He now feels disrespected and it's causing issues with my GF and I think I should just break up with her. Update, I spoke with my dad and it's pretty much what everyone is saying. The conversation with my dad, her dad went something like this according to my dad. Her dad's name is Bill for the story. So my dad asked him what is the conversation about and Bill said that we are teenagers and he wanted to have a talk with me about respecting his daughter and all that. My dad agreed that sex talks is important for teenagers, respect and time and place, but he disagreed that the conversation needs to come from him, Bill, because he isn't active in the relationship. My dad told him for the whole year that we have been together as a family he has never participated, not in dinners, family BBQs, meeting each other let alone speaking to each other. That my dad and my mom have Kathy's number, girlfriend mom, and they are in a GC to discuss like taking all of us to the community pool, movies, or like when we all went Six Flags and that anytime Bill is around he just ignores everyone. That I am a good kid and is being raised right, while his intentions are good but he is in the wrong. That he also needs to speak to my girlfriend about consent, respect precautions as well and as parents together have a conversation with us to ensure the adults are on the same page as well. They went back and forth a bit more and my dad offered for him to still have a talk with me in my dad's presence to ensure we speak in a healthy manner and Bill declined. That it's his house and he will speak to anyone anyway he wants, that is where it kinda went downhill because again my dad doesn't let shit go. He said he agreed that it is his house and he can speak however he wants but that I was his son and I have not disrespected him or his family and he doesn't allow for anyone to speak to me in any way so if he can't be an adult and have an adult conversation then there will be no more conversations. That's when my dad came back inside and told me to leave with him. He waited to speak to my mom because she called Kathy and Kathy said it was unfortunate but her husband is stubborn and a hothead, her words. That she doesn't agree with her husband but that he needs time to cool off because he throws tantrums if he doesn't get to say what he wants and more than likely I will not be able to come over until I apologize to him and listen to what he says and let it go in one ear and out the other like they do. After some more talking with my friend and parents and reading these comments, I have no feelings to hear him out. I feel like he will just disrespect me and talk down to me and I don't like that because my parents don't even speak to me that way. Why would I let basically a stranger speak to me that way? I haven't done anything to him or them to be in this drama. Anyway I am breaking up with my GF and blocking her and anyone who tries to harass me on this. Just to say as well people mentioned if it's trust he doesn't trust me where are we in the relationship? I just got a car this year because I was going to start working. Also my family and I, mom, dad, 2 younger siblings, and my girlfriend, her mom and younger sister all went to a whole other city for a weekend for Six Flags. Her mom trusted me alone with my girlfriend and her dad just never was there he didn't want to come he went fishing. I have spent the night at her house, I slept in the living room they have a camera in the living room because I went with them early in the morning to go tubing, floating down the river, and back home so I don't think it's trust from them. But if he wanted to get to know me there have been plenty of opportunities and when I was over for dinner he would eat with my girlfriend's mom get up and walk to the living room and we would eat with her sister and her mom was cleaning up in the kitchen he purposely avoided any interaction with me for the past year. Reading Andrea's messages she is crashing out right now. She keeps saying just let her dad talk and everything will be fine, but honestly her friends are calling me a coward and honestly this is just exhausting. Yes we were together for a year but since none of us had a car we only saw each other at school or if my parents or her mom would pick us up or drop us off or made group activities. I am not sure why her dad is focused on this now, maybe it is because I have a car but I don't think we are in a place in our relationship for me to argue take it from her dad. I am learning how to manage relationships and this is too much for me at this moment. My dad told me he had to deal with an ex's father like this and it never ends well because you either stand up for yourself and your girlfriend and cause family drama or you let yourself get railroaded. Top comment. Commenter 1. Insecure adult man is upset that he couldn't bully a 17-year-old and instead was faced with an actual man-to-man talk that he claimed he wanted. Commenter 2. This is 100% on. It's not even a question. OP your dad might annoy you, but he stuck up for you and didn't let the weasel off the hook. GF's dad thought he'd bully and scare you like some movie badass dad but you dad said what's the deal the other dad fumbled and floundered. Commenter 3. Like why the heck was the brother invite, except to serve as ego stroking for GF's dad. See son, watch how we men handle our women. I feel sorry for your GF, but drop that family ASAP. Commenter 4. Your GF's dad is acting super weird about wanting to talk to you alone, except with her brother, too. Your dad did the right thing by coming along. If the dad has something to say to you he should be able and willing to say it in front of your dad, too. Reply, right like it's super weird. I think I want to talk to my dad so I have to catch him in between meetings or when he takes his lunch. Either way I put my phone on DND because they won't stop messaging me. Commenter 5. Don't bother going he just wants to bully you. That is why he was upset your dad came. You are too young to deal with this stupid drama. Reply, I don't understand like why is this a thing? What did I do? Stories number 8. My roommates hated my cats and crashed out on me. I sued them, and won. Almighty IF23 had roommates Fern F23 and Eric M23. Fern was an ex-coworker and reached out to me, we talked and were both trying to move out. She and Eric are engaged, and have 2 large dogs, one being a puppy. They wanted to rent a house that had a yard but couldn't afford it without a roommate and asked me to become a roommate. I have 2 cats and we all agreed all animals were okay. In October we all moved into a nice house, 3 bedrooms upstairs and 1 larger one downstairs with a wall connected to the living room. I had the downstairs bedroom, Fern took 1 bedroom as an office, Fern and Eric took 1 bedroom as a bedroom, and then they took the other upstairs bedroom as a getting ready area. One of my cats Mario took very well to the change, he was cautious for about a week but then did great. Luigi my other kitty had a tougher time, he only stayed in my room and rarely came out, the dogs mainly stayed in the living room. Luigi began to come out occasionally after a month but would run away when approached outside of my bedroom. I bought gates for doorways that allow cats through to that when needed we could keep the dogs away from the cats. Essentially Luigi finally became comfortable in the house and explored upstairs. Fern saw him in her office and lost it. Since the whole upstairs is their space I offered to buy a gate for the stairs that way that cats won't go upstairs, that seemed fair to me. Well she said no because she'd fall. That honestly made no sense but okay. So I then offer another solution, they close the doors to the rooms upstairs, that way the cats can't go in and there is no gate. Fern said that is not possible because it gets too cold upstairs. The solution she offered was my cats only stay in my room and the living room, which they didn't love become the dogs. Before they had been allowed in the kitchen which is the pathway to the cat tree which Fern refused to allow in the living room. My cats were trapped while her messy and untrained dogs went everywhere. I told her she was being ridiculous and unreasonable and I had offered 2 great solutions and would pay for the one that required it. She said those were not solutions and if I didn't like her rules then I could get out. I started tearing up because honestly she and Eric had been so nice before, I was just shocked that they switched up so quickly. She then said what you're going to cry about it now? Like bitch I losing my housing situation yes I am. Anyway mid-December is when the argument went down and I took my cats to my parents cause I didn't know if they were safe there because of Fern's unexpected behavior. I packed all my stuff up and moved into my parents'. Mid-January we amended the lease to remove me from it. It actually cost $300 to do that and since they wanted me out I said they should pay it, they refused but I said I would pay the $300 fee if they give me the $700 portion I paid to the security deposit that I would never see again. They agreed to that and said they would pay me on the specific date I signed off the lease. Those were the only conditions and all over text message. Come the day I sign off the lease in January, they text me that I will not be receiving any money from them because I lever the room a mess. Okay that's fine, I took a video photos of the room the day I vacated. I had vacuumed and taken all of my stuff. I texted them that I would see them in court and they laughed and said there was no way I could afford court and that I would have 0 case. I proceeded to take them to small claims court. They avoided certified mail service which cost $90. I then had to pay $90 for process servers, people that will testify they served Fern and Eric. Today came the day and I was so nervous but felt that I would win. I got to the courtroom early, watched the people before me act all catty disrespectful to each other and honestly saw the magistrate react so I decided I would do my best to remain calm and on the facts when I spoke. Fern and Eric show up 2 minutes late, and we begin. I share that when I asked if I paid the $300 vacating fee would they pay me back $700 they texted me and I quote of course that is your money. I told the magistrate that the lease and my state's law dictate that a landlord has 30 days after a tenant vacates to create an itemized list of damages that I was responsible for, and I had never received any such list and therefore caused no damage. I mention I have photos of the room as I left it and then have to show Fern and Eric the photos before I show the magistrate. They get their turn, Fern says well I changed my mind because she left the room in disarray, it smelt like cat urine and had stains all over. She then referenced my photos to the magistrate and said you could see stains in the photos. The magistrate analyzed the photos and the text's confirmation that I would be paid under the specific conditions. He said in the photos a landlord would not see any damage and the only thing he sees on the carpet is vacuum lines. That was amazing. Towards the end the magistrate asks if we have any else to add before he makes a verdict. Fern popped up and mentioned that I had not been kicked out and that I left in December all of a sudden. Weird, the magistrate said I wasn't claiming to be kicked out. I confirmed that was not my claim and reaffirmed my claim and mentioned I left in December because I did not know if my cats would be safe with people who didn't want them around, so I just took them to my parents just in case. That did not matter, lol. Either way, he makes his verdict and states I have the burden of proof and they owe me the $700 plus the $180 court fees, so I typed this in my notes because I couldn't share until after the appeal period. Good thing I waited because they decided to appeal. Before we went before a magistrate, this time we go in front of a judge. Fun facts about their puppy: they did not let it out enough and it would poop inside a lot and often outside my bedroom door. They didn't like them going out in bad weather because it made the carpets and white furniture dirty. Overall, they just didn't seem like the best puppy owners. Once both dogs ran away, because they let them off leash in the front yard, and luckily they weren't hit because we are near busy roads, but they did go to a greenhouse and roll around in manure. The dog always jumped, which I was fine with, but it was annoying since they lost it over my cat's existing. The other dog was super friendly and generally listened. After the appeal, today was the appeal, I showed up and waited and waited. Apparently they cancelled the appeal, so I win, yay. And very surprisingly they paid me today as well. That I am very happy to say this period of life where they are a part of mine is completely done and had a happy ending. Top comment. Commenter 1. I'm glad you managed to get your money back. Commenter 2. I'm glad the law worked in your favor and you had a reasonable judge. I read so many posts on Reddit in which the OP didn't make use of small claims court, but they should have. Good for you for making a smart decision and following through. Reply. I made sure to have all the proof I could. I took photos of the room and a full video cause I thought they may try to pull something. Along with printouts of the text messages where we agreed on terms. Small claims is definitely worth it if you have a good case, but you have to have some physical proof. Commenter 3. Congratulations. Also, cats are known to explore, so it is unfathomable to me to expect cats to spend their lives in a single room or not try to go upstairs. Reply. That was why I was so upset. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs too, but they let their dirty dogs all over the house, so it was really unfair. Stories number 9. Aita for skipping my brother's wedding because I wasn't invited to the engagement party. I, 28M, have a twin brother. Growing up, we were inseparable and until recently I thought we were still very close. I was always more of a shy nerd and he was an extrovert that played sports throughout our childhood and high school, but we spent almost all of our time together, by choice. We went our separate ways when college came. He stayed local in Arizona and I went to college in Portland. When I graduated, I stayed there because I fell in love with the city. My friends are here, my professional networks from internships were here, etc. But I always flew back home for holidays, events, birthdays, etc. My brother announced on Instagram that he and his girlfriend of 3 years got engaged. I was incredibly happy for him and texted him congrats. He mentioned they were planning to have an engagement party in 6 to 8 weeks and I told him to let me know so I can book a flight to come celebrate. I was never told a date. If I brought it up with him or anyone in my family, they'd change the subject or say it's still being planned and confirmed. After a few weeks I texted my brother to ask about the date because it must be getting close and I don't want to pay for a last-minute flight. No response. I asked my mom for details and she said, it's not really an engagement party, just a small dinner with family. There's no need to come down for it. I eventually found out that it was, in fact, a big party. They rented out an entire restaurant for 4 hours and there were about 80 guests, family, friends, cousins, everyone. Everyone was told I couldn't make it. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, texted me that she was very disappointed I couldn't make time to join and I replied that I would have happily come, but I was not invited. Word spread quickly about my snub and my parents and brother tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. That was almost over a year ago. Since then I've tried to get to the bottom of why I wasn't invited. Over the course of months it went from, it was just meant to be a small gathering, to I don't know what happened, there must have been a miscommunication, to it's just a party. It's no big deal. I asked my brother if he was mad at me. I thought maybe his fiancé didn't like me. Even if she or he didn't want me there, why were my parents okay with this? This really wasn't like them. Christmas and Easter was awkward as hell because no one but me wanted to address the elephant in the room and any conversation about anything was like small talk with strangers. When I visited in May for my sister's birthday, I left early after my sister said, "You moved so far away. It's like you're not really family anymore. You make everything feel so weird now." 9 months ago I got the save the date announcement and 6 months ago I got the invitation to the wedding. I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, which is fine and wasn't surprising at the point. My sister and younger brother were asked to be in the wedding party, so another snub. I also didn't get a +1 for my girlfriend I've been seeing for almost a year and a half. My sister, however, got a +1 for her FWB, so I decided I wasn't welcome and I was probably only invited for optics and to play Happy Family. I didn't RSVP no since I knew that would cause a sideshow, I just didn't go. The wedding was this past weekend. No one contacted me about missing the rehearsal dinner, so I guess even if I did go, I wasn't invited to that either or expected to be there. I started getting calls and texts about an hour before the ceremony asking where I was, if my flight was delayed, how far along I will be, etc., and I ignored them. They stopped for a while during the ceremony but started up again right after. I finally picked up my mom's call and she screamed, "Where the hell are you?" I replied, "In Portland, where you all prefer me to be." She said, "This is your brother's wedding, how could you embarrass us?" I answered, "It's just a party. It's no big deal, right?" It was probably the first time in my life my mother was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Tell everyone I said hi," and I hung up. Now I'm getting calls and texts from everyone saying I was being petty and ruined the day. So am I the AH here? I feel like I'm just matching their energy and dropping the rope. Some of the comments by OOP, I really do feel like they've been icing me out for at least the past year. It's probably started long before that but I just didn't realize it. Honestly, I was going to suggest family therapy, but I'm not sure that'll even work or if I want anything out of that. Thinking about the last few years, it feels like any contact was always initiated by me. The flights aren't very long, 2.5 hours, and between holidays and birthdays and other celebrations I'm back in Phoenix almost every month. It's not like I've moved to another country and they haven't seen me in years. If anyone was just like, "Hey, it feels like we've lost touch, so just a heads up you may not be as involved as others," would have been fine. You were only re-invited to the wedding so you could sit there like a prop while everyone clinked glasses and said, "Look at our perfect family." Commenter, one of my cousins, who is on my side, actually told me that I wasn't even placed at the family table because there wasn't any room to fit me in there. So even if I went, I would have been some random guest. My extended family on both sides are no more than a 30-minute drive away from each other. I was expected to come back home after I graduated and the guilt trips when I told everyone I was staying where I established myself almost made to change my mind and move back. I always thought we stayed close. He'd visited me about every year for a week since I graduated. We may not have chatted or texted every day, but we kept each other abreast of what's going on in our lives. We may not text for 2 to 3 weeks, but when we did, there'd be an hour of texting back and forth and inside jokes. I travel back home about 10 times a year, so I met his now wife and I thought we got along, too. No change in politics as far as I can tell. No moralization or anything like that. My dad is a lifelong Republican, my mom a Democrat, and my siblings and I are all still pretty liberal. No real change there and no shifts noticed from any posts on social media. My brother has visited about 5 times, my sister lived with me one summer for an internship here. My cousin, who is totally on my side, lived with me and 2 of my friends, in a 4-bedroom, of course, for 2 years after she transferred to the college I went to and finished her degree here. My parents visited twice during college and my little brother has no interest. He went to a party school, but C's get degrees. From what I know he likes his job and makes a decent wage. I make a surprisingly good wage, which allows me to visit home regularly. Or allowed me to visit home often, but I doubt I'll be traveling there any time in the near future. I definitely didn't bully him, he would have hooped my ass. No change in politics from what I can see. Literally everyone in my family, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, live a 30-minute drive from each other. I'm the only one that's moved away, but I visit almost on a monthly basis to keep connected. I probably make the most of all of my siblings, so I've gifted money in the past, mostly because I know it's a waste to loan to family. I feel like I give 110% to receive 70% back. My last visit was in May for my sister's birthday. I will not be visiting until after a few weeks after my cousin, whom I'm still close to, gives birth in January. And even then, it'll probably just be to see her only. About my partner, honestly, my family loves her. Or at least they say they do. She came with me for Christmas and my mother pulled me aside and said I finally found someone who can put up with me and she can stop worrying about my future now. My girlfriend was cool with there being no +1 and said it's getting more common to only give +1s to engaged or married couples since the bride and groom don't want some rando they never see again in their photos if the relationship doesn't work out. Engagements and marriages sometimes don't work out either. But then she found out my sister got a +1 for her fuckboy. Update. Thank you to everyone who responded to my last post. I can't believe how many replies it got and I tried keeping up, but couldn't. I also thought it'd be 50-50 NTA and YTA, because I know what I did was a bit petty. To the people who said YTA, I understand your reasons. Yes, it was cowardly to not RSVP to avoid drama, but looking back I was in a headspace where I just caved to the guilt if I RSVP'd that I wasn't planning to attend. Also, a little part of me was hoping they'd realize I didn't RSVP and they'd tell me they want me to come. But every day that passed between the RSVP date and the wedding I got angrier and more hurt and I wanted to make it clear in a big way that if they don't want me around I don't have to be around. And I get that's an move. I had a long phone call with my aunt and cousin last night about the wedding drama. They have given me some more info and our suspicions are a bit of conjecture based on what we know and what we've heard, but here it goes. We really do think my mother felt I rejected them when I didn't move back after graduating. This is despite always coming home for my brother and sister's graduations, all birthdays, mine and immediate families, holidays, special events, etc. I practically visit on a monthly basis. But despite this, we think that she has some weird vendetta against me for splitting up her family and being an example to my siblings that they don't have to stay local. Even worse, somehow visiting so often made my mother resentful because my aunt mentioned that my mother once told her a few years ago that I was flaunting my wealth by showing I could visit so often. Thanks to my senior year internship, I went immediately into a field where progression can be quick and thanks to going back for a very specialized master's degree, I am in a very niche space within that field and was able to move up faster. I'm not bragging, it was just luck, connections, and a great mentor early on. People suggested my brother might be jealous. He does earn less, but as far as I know he loves his job. It just doesn't have the same career progression. Honestly, his job is much more exciting than mine and I'm sure it fulfills him a lot more. My job isn't terrible, it's just not one anyone wants to hear work stories about at a dinner party, lol. I was also flaunting my money by gifting family money when they needed it. My grandfather often said, never loan family money. Give it freely if you want to, but you'll destroy relationships when you start asking for repayment. Not a week of Judge Judy reruns goes by without proving that true. So when I could, I gifted my family money when they needed it. Money for car repairs, money to help with my parents' mortgage when my dad was out of work during COVID, money when my brother ran out halfway through his kitchen renovations. And until last night, my parents' internet and Disney Plus bills, but I've now cancelled the monthly auto payments. Again, this was me flaunting my success. But they never stopped asking, either. My aunt and cousin also said they've heard lots of passive-aggressive comments about me over the years. First from my mother during the first few years after I decided to stay in Portland and then eventually from my siblings. We're pretty sure my mother slowly poisoned them against me for not moving back home and showing what happens if they ever tried to move away. Someone said this about my mother meeting my girlfriend in my previous post. TBH, given the context of everything else that's happened, what your mother said here about finally finding someone who can put up with you sounds less like a tongue-in-cheek joke and more like a not-so-subtle barb. I see it now. I laughed it off as just my mom's humor, but I now also see that these passive-aggressive comments to me, to my siblings, over years was subtle manipulation to turn them against me and for me to learn to accept it. A lot of people suggested this treatment was to get me to move back home and to punish me for leaving, but I'm not going to come home to embrace treatment like this and hope it goes away now that they got their way. Especially when it's been too ingrained in them by now. It also explains why for the past few years almost every conversation is initiated by me. They simply don't like me anymore and don't need me until they need or want something. My cousin also learned from another cousin that my brother shot himself in the foot when he mentioned the engagement party. I wasn't supposed to know at all. The plan was to tell everyone I couldn't make it and hope I'd never find out. My brother told that cousin that I wasn't supposed to find out about it, but after he let it slip I wouldn't shut up about asking to come. Based on how they've been talking about me for a couple of years, lots of extended family thinks I'm some annoying loser who makes my too often visits miserable for my family and I can't get the hint to fuck off. So I'm finally fucking off. My aunt and mother never really got along. My aunt is my mother's brother's wife, but my aunt said she knew all of this had my mom's name all over it and that years of digs, passive-aggressive comments, and full-on aggressive comments have all come to this. She said they're not the same people. I told them that I don't think there's any coming back from this, then. My aunt and cousin both mentioned that they never heard my dad say anything bad, so my aunt is going to have my uncle talk to my dad man to see if he can find out what the hell is going on. I thanked my aunt and cousin and reminded them they are pretty much the only family I have left and I don't plan on losing touch with them. My aunt even mentioned that they haven't gone camping in years and asked if there are any nice places around Portland. It's too far to drive to go camping, but it means they may visit sometime. They also said they're going to try to correct info about me with extended family members, but I told them to not bother, they've already chosen to believe it. But for now my immediate family are cut off. I've blocked them on my phone and social media. No more free handouts when they need money. No more wasting money to go to Phoenix fucking Arizona 10+ times a year just to be roasted by the sun and family members. No more punching bag. Thank you all for your support and helping me realize my family really is shitty. Stories number 10. Aita for sending money to my brother's child against his will and asking him to fuck off. Edit. I phrases it badly. By inheritance I was referring to the child being included in his will. I also didn't mention this in the post, but he and his wife had wanted her to get an abortion which she refused, which is why I am not sympathetic towards my sister-in-law either. I'll keep this brief since it's frankly just embarrassing, but I can clarify any details if required. My brother Julian is in his 30s, I am 2 years or so older. He's been married for a few years, and has 2 children. I am personally not married myself, and we live in different cities. The gist is that he cheated on his wife a few years ago, after he was married, obviously, and has a secret child with a woman. He hushed it up by promising to send her money, but never did, and apparently she's never sued for child support. His wife was already aware about the betrayal and helped in not leaking out, but some time ago the other woman blew the whistle and outed the whole secret to my brother, demanding child support and inheritance for her child etc. or threatened to embarrass him. He'd promised to break off the marriage with my sister-in-law, which was how he got with her in the first place. Now he went completely ballistic etc., and in the end he agreed to pay her, including the back wages, but said the child would not get any inheritance, and that she'd move out to another city again. Now I had no idea about any of this, and I was both horrified and extremely disgusted. I told Julian that he absolutely has to hand over a part of his inheritance to the boy, called him a fucking deadbeat and said I won't have anything to do with it. Since he refused, I have been personally sending money to the woman, and have made a point to inform everyone who'd listen that Julian's a deadbeat. I've told him that unless he hands over my nephew's inheritance and apologizes to the woman publicly that I'll never let him hear the end of it. Obviously he and his wife are flipping out and calling me a traitor, etc., but I think it's the right thing to do since what I consider what he did to be unforgivable. Relevant comment. Commenter 1. Info. If your brother is alive, why in hell is anyone demanding they hand over inheritance now? Child support, yeah, but inheritance only happens once someone dies. Commenter 2. Info. If the husband, your bro, and his wife both knew about the affair and child, then how was it a surprise to your brother? Also, is your brother a member of The Walking Dead? If not and he still breathes, then what inheritance are you talking about? Commenter 3. It's an inheritance. No one is entitled to it. He could spend it all to charity, or pick a random person off the street as long as he knows their name and other details to add them to the will. Now he absolutely should be paying child support. He made that kid and he needs to take care of it, at least financially, if nothing else. And it of course sucks for the kid who doesn't have a dad. But I'm wondering what you mean about hand over the inheritance. If he is still alive and it's his money, you're talking about the kid inheriting, there is nothing to hand over. I assume you mean you want him to add his second child to his will. Even if he did that and you could verify it, he could also just extremely easily change it all after the fact. Stories number 11. My BF says he does not want my best friend, family member, in our wedding, and I said I'd rather just leave him now. So some backstory. My F23 boyfriend, M27, of 5 years and I had gone to a wedding a few weeks back and decided to start talking about what we would do. For some more info, I am American and he is not, but he has lived in the US for more than half of his life now. For the actual argument, we spoke and I said I would love for my best friend, female family member, to be one of my bridesmaids and that I wouldn't mind if she wore a matching suit instead of a bridesmaid dress. He became irate, and instantly flipped out telling me he didn't want gay shit in his wedding. He then went on a rant about how if I was gay I should let him know now, and finishing it saying he was never going to marry me anyways. We get into arguments often, usually ending in words he doesn't mean. But I am reaching the end of my line. He has known this person since they were a young teen, and they have never been a girly person, always wearing baggy and trendy clothing. I am also not a girly person at all, as that wedding we went to was the first time I had put makeup on in literal years. He has now all of the sudden decided that he doesn't respect our lifestyles and doesn't want them in our wedding at all. I told him he was already walking a thin line, but this may be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I said I would rather be single than to be with someone who could pretend to love me and my family the way we are. Am I overreacting by threatening to leave him? Also, more context: he didn't start planning on proposing to me until I told him he had until the end of this year. Then suddenly he was scrambling to get advice. I also don't think I'm wrong in wanting to be engaged after over 5 years together. Edit, more context. I am seeing the comments and understand everyone's perspective. I agree and have decided that I will part ways with him. It is a difficult decision, we have argued, yes, but he has never acted so bigoted and hateful towards myself or my family before, so it really hurts, and I guess I'm just in denial. I guess I was just wondering if I was overreacting because he spoke to my mother, who then told me I shouldn't take him so seriously because he doesn't hate my best friend, he is just feeling ignored. Which I do not agree with. I have done many things to accommodate him and his family in my life, but if he can't allow me to have someone I love in my wedding, it's just not fair, and I don't believe he truly loves me. Top comment. Commenter 1. Your arguments end in words he doesn't mean, and he doesn't like gay people. I mean, you can marry the homophobic man who has zero respect for you, your family and friends, have some kids who are going to grow up being taught hate, find yourself miserable years later and maybe get that divorce. It will be tough because by now you are isolated from everyone, but you will be so unhappy it will be worth it. Or, you can get some self-respect, leave his sorry ass now, and actually build a happy and healthy life for yourself, you decide. Commenter 2. We get into arguments often, usually ending in words he doesn't mean. Yes, he means them. He doesn't want to marry you. You're too young to feel like you have to give an ultimatum to your partner. Walk away with your head held high. You deserve so much better. Commenter 3. Just leave him, LMAO, what is this? Your BF of 5 years is a raging bigot and emotionally unstable child, and yet you wanted to marry him? How desperate are you? The fact that this is where you draw the line is hilarious. You should have left a long time ago. Commenter 4. He told you straight up he was never gonna marry you and called you family gay shit. Like that's not someone you build a future with. Just leave him already, you're just seeing the real him now. Stories number 12. Wibta, if I outed my sister so my parents won't hate my fiancé. I, 27M, live with my 27F fiancé, Annie, and recently my sister, Mia, came to live with us. Mia has never actually told me she was a lesbian, but I've always kind of knew she was. Anyways, my parents asked if Mia could move in with us because she can't see her friends since they are high risk. I agreed, and Mia has been living with us. I've started to notice changes in her behavior around Annie. Mia has always been shy about her body and at most will wear knee-length shorts on a very hot day even with family. Now she's basically always in sports bras and booty shorts. It was odd, but I haven't lived with my parents in 6 years, so I don't know if she changed her home habits during the time I was gone. I just brushed it off as a self-esteem boost and was proud of her. Then she got especially close to Annie. I assumed it was just admiration, but then it got super weird. She was sticking even closer to Annie, and it wasn't like she was butting in on us when we were being romantic, but it was like she was trying to prevent romantic moments from happening by trying to direct Annie somewhere else. She would also leave the room or look sad when we kissed. I got the feeling she had a crush on Annie. I confronted her about her feelings and told her that it was fine if she had a crush, but she was taking it too far and she denied it. Now my sister knows I know she's a lesbian because a few years ago I sent her one of those "if ex-friend was ever more than a friend" texts. She denied that they were more than friends. I told her that I'll always be here to support her and moved on. Things would stop for a while then pick up, We would have this conversation, then the cycle would repeat. Annie figured out that Mia probably had a crush on her and was uncomfortable by the entire situation. A few weeks ago Annie kind of sister-zoned Mia and things just escalated. She openly flirted with Annie to the point where Annie didn't even want to be at home. We couldn't do anything romantic at home because she might see it start openly bawling in her room. Mia was very cold to me and always snapping at me for small reasons. I had enough when she made breakfast for Annie and her using the food I specifically bought for myself, and Annie walked out crying. I pulled her aside and told her that she needs to stop right now or I will kick her out. She acted like she didn't know what I was talking about again, so now I'm definitely kicking her out. The only problem is my parents. I can just kick out my little sister and not tell them why. If I tell the truth my sister will be outed, but if I tell a half-truth like she made my fiancé uncomfortable, they'll hate my fiancé because I can't actually explain what my sister did to make her uncomfortable without outing her. My sister deserves a chance to come out, and this isn't like I accidentally outed her either. Is getting herself outed a consequence of her actions, or would I be the asshole? Edit. I'm just going to clarify why I can't say that the living arrangement wasn't working out. Like I said in the beginning, my parents are high risk, so she cannot see her friends at all, so if it just wasn't working out they'd tell me to suck it up until the school year starts. If I didn't, I'd be the heartless jerk who doesn't want to let my sister have a social life. Second, I don't think they believe me in the first place because I've never had a problem with my sister, they just assume I was covering for Annie. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Whitey, if you out Mia, you can, in fact, kick your sister out without telling your parents why. Keep it to a simple, the living arrangement wasn't working out. Feel free to ask Mia if she wants to share why. TBH, I really want to know what you mean by openly flirting and bawling. If she saw you being romantic, cause this whole story sounds hinky and it's really weird that you've basically been pestering your sister for years to tell you she's a lesbian. Reply. The living arrangement wasn't working out wouldn't be an okay answer either. I've always been okay living with my sister, so they would assume it was my fiancé who didn't like living with her. Even if I insist it was me, I'd still be the heartless jerk who prevented his sister from having a social life. Commenter 2. You can decline to continue the conversation if they won't accept your answer. If your parents are this pushy and unreasonable, it's unlikely that outing your sister would do much good. Reply. I mean, then I'd be hated. Any other time I would have taken that bullet for my sister, but based on how she was acting, I'm not willing to have my parents angry at me because of her. Commenter 3. But still, you can just say she cries all the time and we can't parent her or something. You don't need to take it as far as you're saying you want to. There are a million ways to say you can't live with her without it being I can't live with her because she's a lesbian that apparently has a crush on my fiancé she doesn't want to own up to. Reply. Believe me, I'm genuinely thinking of a way to not out her and not get hated by my parents or have my fiancé hated by my parents. If I say she cries all the time, they would assume I'm doing something to her because she didn't cry with them. We can't parent isn't an excuse because she's 21, there is no parenting involved. Of course I could always lie that she did something else, but she'd tell my parents that was a lie, and then I'd be hated or have to out her. Commenter 4. If you out her she's also going to say that's a lie. Reply. I mean, she can't really lie about this because there were many signs pointing to her being a lesbian. This would just be the nail in the coffin. Commenter 5. Stick to finding a different way to say it. It really seems like you want to tell them just to do it because you keep circling back to it in your responses. Just because you hadn't had an issue with her when you guys lived at your parents' house or whatever, doesn't mean that can't change as adults now living your own lives. Little habits and things add up. Like with her seemingly trying to ruin your romantic moments, you could definitely say you guys aren't getting the privacy or personal space you want with her being there. And, maybe she's confused about where she stands with things. Maybe she knows she likes girls but isn't sure where she stands on it. Which would add to her being crazy, and her being crazy and apparently erratic is why you don't want her there. She's overly emotional and I don't know why, and we can't handle it. There's another reason. Your reasoning doesn't have to be you saying anything remotely close to her being a lesbian. You're very concerned about your parents hating you but haven't, that I've seen, mentioned how much your sister would be affected if you tell your parents you can't live with her because of her crazy lesbian actions. Reply. I don't want to tell them, I'm sorry if it seemed like I did. However, compared to being hated by my parents, I'd rather tell them. Any other time I would have taken that bullet for my sister, but right now I'm not sure if I even view her as my sister. I think the personal space is a good suggestion, but my sister would deny it and that would lead to a whole can of drama. The overly emotional would also be off with them because there would have to be something that would make her emotional. Which would lead back to me doing something to make her cry all the time. My parents overreact and are super pessimistic, which is precisely the reason she had to come here in the first place. My sister wouldn't really be affected by telling them, except from them being overly annoying. My parents are not homophobic and are very supportive, but they'd be surprised. My sister is a bit shy, so I think she'd be uncomfortable with them being excessively supportive. Commenter 6. A couple of questions. How old is Mia? And what kind of text are you talking about here? If ex-friend was ever more than a friend. Also, why did Annie walk out crying just because Mia made them breakfast? Reply. Mia is 21. The text I was talking about was if ex-friend was ever more than a friend, you know I'd still be here by your side no matter what. I'll always love you forever. Annie walked out crying because she hates feeling like she's letting me get bullied. Basically she felt like Mia was harassing me because of her and she was just letting it happen when she could do something. Commenter 7. Info. I feel like this requires more context, like how old your sister is. If she's still in high school or something, an age where she's dependent on your parents for living, you'll definitely BTA for outing her when the consequences could be her being homeless. I'm trans and I delayed coming out tonight any extent just from fear of that situation, and I think that's something cishet people don't really get. Your sister flirting so hard with your fiancé makes her also an asshole, but potentially ruining a teenager's home life is 1000% not an appropriate reaction. If your sister is older and could be independent, that's a different matter. Reply. Mia is 21, and my parents are not homophobic. I'm sure they'd definitely be surprised, but they would not kick her out. Commenter 8. Again, a lot of parents can be not homophobic until it involves their family. I still think that if you decided to out your sister, YTA, but in this case your sister is also the asshole. At 21 she's old enough to know how to behave, even if she's going through an overly horny baby gay phase. Reply. My parents are not homophobic. My cousin came out as gay 2 years ago and they were very supportive. My mom's oldest brother is also pansexual. I've been suggested to threaten to out her and see if she chooses to change her behavior. If not, I should kick her out. If my parents ask, I'll tell them to ask her, and if she chooses to lie to them and paint us as the bad guys, then and only then will I tell them the truth. Commenter 9. If you out your sister, if you don't kick your sister out, you're NTA if you throw your sister out, thereby making your home a safe place again for your fiancé, and don't out your sister to your parents. I suggest that you kick out your sister, and if your parents ask why, tell them that she repeatedly overstepped boundaries and you're done with her disrespect and melodrama. You don't have to give details. You're not a child and you can set boundaries with your parents too. Reply. In any other case, not giving my family details would be fine, but she's supposed to move out in a month anyways, and by kicking her out I'd be depriving her of seeing her friends. They are going to want to know why, and if I don't say anything, then I'd be hated or they'd assume it was my fiancé. My parents always assume the worst. I'd frankly rather out my sister than be hated or have my fiancé hated. I know that sounds asshole why, but I'm at a point where my sister is almost like a stranger to me and I'd rather out a stranger than lose my family. Anyways, I've been giving many other good suggestions in the comments. Thank you so much for your suggestion anyways. Commenter 10. Yes, Annie has brought up these issues, she's even personally rejected Mia. Personally, I'm not sure about the impact it will have on Mia. My parents are in no way homophobic, but considering what Mia did, that is a whole other case. They do tend to coddle her, but I don't think they just ignore her harassing Annie. Anyways, about the outing, if it does come to that, I've been suggested to be as vague as possible in a way that describes what she did but doesn't exactly out her. However, before I decide anything, I'm going to talk to Annie. Commenter 11. YTA. I was going to say NTA, but reading your response in comments changed my mind. It does not matter if it's a stranger, you cannot out somebody. Fucking lie. Just say she was rude to your fiancé and continually judged and looked down on her. Whatever you say happened, your sister will say that it didn't happen, so nothing changes. And she won't tell them the truth because then she will have to out herself. Reply. I think you read that comment wrong. I never said it's okay to out a stranger. I was saying that I rather out someone who I don't know than lose the people I love. That doesn't make it okay, but it's sensible. You can tell me all you want that you would never out a stranger, but given the choice between outing somebody who you have no connection with or losing the people who you see as family, what would you do? At this point, Mia is even less than a stranger. Based off of what she did, at least in my eyes, she lost the right to expect any sort of leniency from me. However, I have indeed retraced my steps with outing Mia. Before any decisions are made, I will be talking to Annie because Annie is the victim. Update: Wibta, if I outed my sister so my parents won't hate my fiancé. I got a lot of YWNTA for kicking my sister out, but YWBTA for outing my sister. I accepted it at that point and was going to have a talk with my parents without outing my sister and being especially vague. Then to my surprise there was a string of NTA for both, the reason being my sister's behavior was a crime and needs to be addressed immediately. I decided to just talk with Annie, who ultimately was the victim, and asked her what she wanted to do. With the exception that there was no debating my sister getting the heck out. She said she wanted to tell my parents what happened because they deserved to know. I couldn't agree more, not because like some of you suggested I wanted to out my sister for revenge, but because I think part of the blame is on them. Growing up I was always the smart kid and she was always the social kid. My parents put my education over her events. She couldn't invite her friends over because I was studying. If she was invited to a friend's birthday and I had tutoring around the same time, she would either have to walk to her friend's house, be late, or not even go at all. At some point they realized how this was affecting her and just let her do whatever she wanted. When I needed it to be quiet so I could study, they would just ship me off to my uncle's house. I didn't mind. My parents would let her do what she wanted, but they still gave me more attention. So yes, like some of you suggested, my sister definitely needs therapy. So we talked to my parents after we kicked her out. We told them what Mia did and I think my dad believed us, but my mom didn't. This part is now all just being relayed from my parents. They went to my sister and to my surprise she came clean to everything. She admitted what she did was wrong, but she just couldn't stop herself and she was just so angry at me for getting all the attention all the time. I had all the good things, she didn't. Well, it ended up in a shouting match and they kicked her out. They kicked her out of their house, but they moved her into my aunt's. They gave her an ultimatum: either go to therapy or receive no financial support from them. With the condition that if she doesn't start therapy within the next 5 years they will not be paying for her sessions. I think they should pay either way, but it's their money, so not my place to say anything. I haven't heard from my sister. She texted Annie to tell her she's sorry and asked her to meet up, but she hasn't reached out to me. I probably wouldn't have responded if she did though. I'll also be looking into getting therapy. Even if I'm angry at my sister and never want to see her again, I also feel like I lost her. Yes, Mia was outed in the end, but I think that considering everything this is the best outcome for her too. Thank you for all the responses. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I feel like you glossed over you kicking her out. How did that go down? I think that her texting Annie and asking her to meet up and not including you is a major boundary violation, especially for your fiancé who was being sexually harassed by her, and she hasn't learned her lesson. NTA. Reply. She didn't want to go. She yelled that this was unfair and didn't deserve this. Then she turned to Annie and asked her what she wanted. Annie told her she wanted her to leave and she left quietly. Commenter 2. 5 years. I think she needs therapy now. 5 years is so far away, it doesn't even mean anything. I'd give her a couple months. Therapists are doing Zoom calls. Reply. My parents mean that she needs to reach out within the next 5 years to get therapy or they aren't paying for sessions. Commenter 3. To be clear, your parents want her to get therapy for her behavior, not her sexuality. Reply. For her behavior. Commenter 4. I'm curious, and nosy, why did your parents kick her out? Was she refusing to get help or something? It seemed like a lot of it was going really positively and then just fell apart. I'm worried that them evicting her as well is then now to her more evidence of rejection and being denied. She needs help, but passing the buck when she has literally said I feel like I always came second, has been rejected by her crush Infatuation, who again is with you, so another rejection even though obviously your wife is your wife, but we're dealing with a damaged person here, been kicked out, outed, and evicted again. That is some serious emotional baggage right now she's trying to deal with. Yes, this is pandemic times and pandemic rules reign supreme, but foisting her to another relative seems like it would do more harm than good. Reply. My parents kicked her out because she harassed Annie. I don't know why they moved her into my aunt's though. I'm guessing because they wanted to keep tabs on her so she gets therapy and doesn't do anything drastic. I hope my sister gets help, but I'm going to be honest, I've decided to stop worrying about my sister. I hope she gets therapy, but what she does or doesn't do is no longer any of my concern. I want to focus on helping Annie and myself. Annie and I have already blocked my sister on everything and I've made it clear to my parents that if they do anything to reinstall contact between my sister and I won't speak to them again. Stories number 13. Aita for refusing to downgrade my first-class seat so a newlywed couple could sit together. I, 26F, was recently flying cross-country for a work conference. My company booked me a first-class ticket as a reward for hitting some pretty big quarterly goals. It was my first time flying anything but economy, so yeah, I was excited. I got to my seat, got comfortable, ordered a mimosa, all good. Then this flight attendant comes over with this super apologetic look and asks if I'd be willing to switch seats with a woman in coach so she can sit with her new husband. Apparently they got bumped and didn't get seats together. Here's the kicker, the husband was in the seat next to me, and the wife was back in row 26. The flight attendant said they'd give me a free drink voucher and priority boarding next time if I moved. I said no. Politely. But firmly. I explained that I paid, well, technically my company paid, for this seat and it was really important to me. The wife actually came up to plead with me in person and said it was their honeymoon and they just wanted to sit together. I said, that's sweet, but not my problem, and put my headphones on. She went back crying. Not even exaggerating. The husband gave me this look like I kicked a puppy. The rest of the flight was awkward as hell. When I landed, I had texts from a friend, who I'd told the story to, saying I was being cold and could have made their day with such a small gesture. But like, I didn't pay for their wedding. Why is that my job? Aita for not giving up my first-class seat to a couple with poor planning. Comment. Commenter 1. Why didn't the husband switch with the person beside his wife and offer them his first-class seat in exchange for coach? Commenter 2. This was my thought, if it was so important for them to sit together he would move NTA. Commenter 3. They could have easily sat together if the husband moved back to row 26, giving the first-class seat to whoever was sitting next to the wife. The husband was the AH, not you. Commenter 4. The husband should have switched. You don't ask people to downgrade, you offer the person you want to switch with the upgrade. Stories number 14. Am I wrong for not inviting my sister's cheating boyfriend to my wedding? My sister is dating this guy who has cheated on her and many other women. Before they dated he told her about how he was a cheater, liar and manipulator. He has been married a few times and cheated in all those marriages. His children don't speak to him anymore, not my sister's children, she doesn't have kids, his father was also a cheater and he repeats the same patterns. My sister confided this to me a couple of years ago and of course I told her to dump him and never trust him, so how she found out about him cheating on her with his ex went like this. He owns property and my sister found out that his ex was living in the property. She confronted him on this and he insisted that she was just renting the property and that my sister was being paranoid, gaslighting her basically. Time went by and my sister couldn't shake the feeling that he was cheating. He had left his wallet in my sister's apartment and my sister looked in it and found his ex's ID. Of course she confronted him again and he got really angry and accused her of going through his personal property and manipulated her into thinking she was the one at fault. After a big fight my sister finally got the truth out of him. It turns out that he had been with his ex throughout the whole relationship with my sister and he was cheating on both of them. Of course he was crying and begging for forgiveness to pull on her heartstrings. Then he goes and moves back in with his ex. My sister and him were broken up but over time they got back together. She brought him to visit the family once and it killed me to see him talking to my family and them treating him so nice. They have no idea what he has done. I ignored him the whole time he was down and I'm pretty sure they could tell. I am getting married soon and my fiancé asked my sister to be one of her bridesmaids. My sister said yes and she asked could she bring a +1. My fiancé asked me and I said to say no. In hindsight I should have told my fiancé to tell my sister to ask me so I'm definitely an asshole for that. I have apologized for that to my fiancé for that. The next day I get a message from dad asking if I'm going to invite my sister's boyfriend. I said no and made up an excuse about budget and stuff. I couldn't tell them the truth because my sister confided in me. My parents confronted me on it a few days later and said you have to invite him but I said no and told them not to meddle. I said that I have my reasons and they are just going to have to trust me. I also said that my sister never asked me if he can come. They said that she had asked my fiancé. So that's how I knew she had told my parents about it and it wasn't just a big coincidence that they were asking about it. Comment. Commenter 1. I know your sister confided in you but she is setting you up to be turned on by the entire family. If she doesn't tell them, maybe you should. I'm just biased though, I think I'd do that. You aren't wrong for not inviting him, but not giving your sister a +1 is going to seem really unbalanced, and maybe not necessarily fair. Commenter 2. OP should tell his sister that she either smooths this over with the other family members herself, to get them off of OP's back, or he will tell the family why he doesn't want the guy there. Commenter 3. She needs help, the techniques he's using are Darvo, he's got a string of women he uses and abuses and she's the next in line. She needs to realize that he won't change, he only cares about himself, and for goodness sake tell your parents, she's at real risk of serious emotional harm. It's not time to keep a secret. You're not wrong, it's your wedding and your guest list, but tell your parents and get her some professional help. Thank you for apologizing to your fiancé. Stories number 15. My fiancé is demanding I stop making home-cooked meals for a friend. I, 27 am very passionate about cooking. I'm not a professional chef by any means, but it's one of my favorite hobbies. I love the act of creating food, but sharing it is what's really special to me, whether it's something I've made or a nice meal at a restaurant. My girlfriend, 27F, is pretty picky. She won't even touch a majority of the things I cook or split most meals at restaurants, and that's fine. It's the way she's been reacting to other people enjoying my food that bothers me. A good friend of mine, Jace, 34M, is a truck driver. I don't get to see him as often as I would like, but when he comes home I always make it a point to feed him well. It's fun for me to plan. It's also really fulfilling in a way. It makes me feel this sense of warmth, making something for him. I know that being on the road so much can be tough, so when he's here I want him to feel grounded and at peace. Basically, I'm giving this man all the comfort food. Jace is always so appreciative and makes jokes about coming home to his wife. He should be back home in just a few days, and I mentioned to my fiancé that I had a whole menu planned. She got upset and basically told me that she didn't like how I went above and beyond for him. I've held my ground and said it's important to me, but her comments have started feeling a little less aimed at her own discomfort and more so just derogatory towards me. Aita for wanting to keep cooking for him. Update, my fiancé is demanding I stop making home-cooked meals for my friend. My girlfriend and I are currently on a break. I don't think I consciously realized it, but some part of me must have known how close we were to a breaking point. Otherwise I don't think I would have written or posted my original question. I was making chicken breast for Jace on Friday. Whenever he gets back from a job, he'll go home and crash for a few hours. I like to time things so his meal is hot and ready when he wakes up. I had left the kitchen while it was cooking, and the oven was off when I came back. I asked my fiancée if she had done it, and she said yes. This resulted in easily the worst fight we've had. I ended up asking for the engagement ring back. This goes beyond me feeling unappreciated. This is her actively undermining something I'm passionate about. It feels like contempt. This is supposed to be a temporary break, but I really don't feel any sadness over not having seen or talked to her the past few days. I don't know where to go from here. A very big part of me just wants to be done. Stories number 16. Aita for telling my dad's wife she's not my bonus mom after I only brought mom wedding dress shopping with me. I'm 26F, an only child. My parents divorced my senior year of high school. By the time I graduated my dad started dating his second wife. I'd met her once before. He told me he was bringing her and I was like okay, fine. She showed up way overdressed and attempted to overtake the whole thing. She tried to interfere in the photos I had taken, she tried to push my mom away from me in any group photos taken, and it took me telling my dad that if he didn't stop her they could just go home and not come to the party. A few times she even tried to unlink mine and mom's arms and take mom's place next to me. She apologized to me a few days later, but mom later admitted dad's wife called and boasted about how much nicer her and dad's photos with me would look because I had two parents in them instead of one. She also tried to boast that I took more with her than mom. But that wasn't true, and I didn't actually print any of the photos with her in them because she pissed me off so bad. After the whole situation, every time I saw my dad's wife, who became his wife a year after my graduation, she was overly nice to me and would get super eager to spend time with whenever I mentioned I was going back to mom's. I stayed with mom when I was home for the holidays. She was always looking to spend time with me instead. I know from one of dad's friends that his wife always looks for everyone to insult my mom. It's just so petty. She started calling herself my bonus mom and me her bonus daughter. I corrected her once or twice, but then I just started spending less time with her. As a result, my relationship with my dad has suffered. Recently I went wedding dress shopping with my mom, and when dad's wife found out, she got super upset. I went with mom and not her. She asked me why I didn't want her to go, and that's what bonus moms are for. I told her she's not my bonus mom and she never was. She's my dad's second wife and is no kind of mother figure to me, and she never will be with the way she treats my actual mother. My dad told me I took it too far and should apologize, because even if she's been bitchy to my mom, she's been super welcoming to me. I told him that doesn't matter because she needs to know her place and it's not as someone I care for. And that the more she tries to force her way in and push my mom out or outshine my mom, the worse she looks to me. He insisted that I could still have been a lot nicer. Commenter 1. NTA, even if she was a saint to you and your mom, you still don't need to feel comfortable with her being your bonus mom. She didn't raise you and has seemingly done nothing motherly with you. But are you going to invite her to the wedding because she's going to pull the same things she did at the graduation? This is going to be a thing at every event. Reply, I know it will, and honestly I have some soul searching to do after all of this. Dad won't come without her, but she's so annoying and inserts herself way too much for my liking. Commenter 2, so you were almost a grown-up when she came into the picture, and she just thinks she can magically swoop in and take on a motherly role in your life? Your dad's wife has a serious case of delulu, and I don't blame you for pulling back. She sounds like she tries to replace your mom in every way she can. Makes you wonder why she acts like your mom is such a threat to her. It is too bad that your relationship with your dad suffers from this, but honestly, that is on him and not you. If he is fine with his wife being overly pushy, and kinda creepy, that is the consequences he will have to live with. Reply, I was already 18 when I met her and never lived with her, so technically a grown-up I was. As for why she's like this, I don't really know, other than she seems jealous that she's the second wife. She tries to cling to this younger wife thing, but she's 3 years younger than dad and only a year younger than my mom. Commenter 3, hilarious. I mean, also sad AF. She's not really a younger wife, she's just the second wife. A year is nothing. She could have been in the same high school class as your mom, depending on when birthdays fell. Reply, I know, and that's something others have pointed out to her, including some of my dad's friends. Stories number 17. My wife went out last night, and didn't come home until this morning. This is horrible, I'm furious right now. But I'm also depressed as hell. I know what I have to do, it's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh, and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m. I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I've never seen either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep. So that's what she did. She's still asleep now, and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me though. I think I need to stick to that now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You keep trying to reason yourself out of it because this just happened, and you're still in shock. The feeling of betrayal is still going to be there when the shock fades, so don't let yourself humor her now. Also, just to be 100% safe, I'd recommend an STD screening. This might not be the first time she's done something of this nature. Reply: I really don't think she's done this multiple times. If she had, she'd likely have come home and told me right away anyways. She's always been the type of person who can't keep things bottled inside. I will get tested though, it can't hurt, though I am a little scared of needles. Commenter 2: Damn man, sounds like she wanted you to catch her, like this is not the first time. Reply: That thought has crossed my mind too. How casual she was about it doesn't match with the fact that she came home in clothes I've literally never seen her in. Commenter 3: If cheating is your deal breaker, and it's a totally reasonable one, the deal has been broken. When she wakes up she's going to give you the whole song and dance that she was drunk, that she loves you, etc., but the truth is she broke your trust and your heart and your vows. Stick to your guns, and leave the woman who doesn't respect you enough to stay faithful. Reply: Thank you. I don't know why it helps to hear it from another person, but it really does. I honestly don't know that I want to hear her out right now. It's not like I'm going to believe anything she tells me anyway. Commenter 4: Why are you reasoning yourself out of anything? You're doing the work to convince yourself to stay while the person who cheated is having a nice sleep. If she that casually admitted to it, that means she has no remorse for it at all. Likely wasn't the first time either. And if you accept it, it 100% won't be the last. Reply: I keep having that argument with myself because I love her. I'm stunned and hurt, but those feelings didn't disappear when she walked in this morning. I need to figure out a way to separate the feelings of love from the fact that she just tore our marriage apart. Commenter 5: Buddy, do yourself a favor, and think about the reasons why you would cheat. Try really hard. Still can't think of any? It's because it's not an option to you. You made a conscious decision to be with your partner and to be faithful. You can't be pried with liquor and compliments because you loved her. Now, that's what you deserve back from your partner. If she can't give that to you, regardless of the excuses she might give to you, she's not worth your love. That love could be invested in someone who gives it back in return. Reply: Holy shit, dude. This one hit me hard. Thank you. Update: My wife went out last night, and didn't come home until this morning. Me again, folks. I'm sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. I wasn't able to get the day off work yesterday because my boss kind of sucks. I was a complete mess at work yesterday though, so I was allowed to take the rest of the week as vacation, thankfully. I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I wasn't expecting my post to get any attention at all. I just figured I needed to try to talk to someone about it, because I was not in a good headspace. I made the post in the morning, and by noon she was still conked out in the bedroom. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie. But I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me, and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible that wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions, I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time, it was taking me everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here, just sex, a way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it can. It hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even asked that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes, and no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much the romantic partner of every one of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull. She clarified. It's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much, or not supporting her emotionally. Nope. She just fucked other guys because she felt like it, and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me, and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit, and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her that there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother, and told her what was going on. The full story too, the cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I just grabbed my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left, and took all the things that I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to, with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently I'm a fucking piece of shit for telling her mom everything. Whoops. I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving, so that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I cancelled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure, and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better I'll probably go with them. I also wanted to say that I was shocked how supportive everyone was, and thank you for that. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It isn't easy for me to talk about emotional things with people close to me. This was an invaluable venting place for me. Thank you all so much. TLDR, this wasn't the first time she had cheated on me. I packed up my things and left, and I think I'm on track to being in a better place. Working on initiating divorce proceedings now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My ex also tried to have sex with me when he told me he cheated. He was literally biting my neck whilst I cried on the bed. These people aren't normal. I genuinely think he was sociopathic and I think yours is too. It's sickening but a good final nail in the coffin to really kill those feelings. Reply. It was her nails on my chest when she tried to take my shirt off that got me, still makes me cringe thinking about it. I hope you're doing a lot better now. Commenter 2. Glad you had the strength to get out of there and not put yourself through more of your ex's bullshit. I find it funny that she started crying now, seems like a complete flip from how heartless and cold she was to you when she first came home. Good riddance, and good luck to your future OP. Reply. I honestly don't know if she was crying because I was leaving, or just because she was caught and the little universe she had built for herself was crumbling. I'd like to think she cared I was leaving on some level, but her response to the whole thing does make me question. I'm looking into therapy, but as weird as it sounds, I want the anger to fuel me a little longer. Commenter 3. Did she give you a reason for why she didn't try to hide it this time? Just morbid curiosity. Reply. That was part of the why did you cheat discussion. No, I didn't get an answer from her. When I asked about the change of clothes, she claimed that she borrowed them from a friend who wanted to match with her. I asked why pick now to stop hiding it. The only reply she gave was that she got caught up in things that night. I know there's more to it that she's not telling me, I just don't care to go digging for it right now. Commenter 4. I'm sorry to bring this up, but I think you also need to be thinking about your friends. The fact that she was willing to openly admit her infidelity, and that it had happened before, and that she had hooked up with some random guy, but then got very evasive about the past. There's a non-trivial chance that she slept with either one of your mutual friends or, worse, one of your friends. You probably won't be able to figure out who, or maybe you will, but once she realizes she's not going to get you back, I guarantee you that she will happily pull the pin on that grenade to, in her mind, get back at you for not taking her back. Reply. I hadn't even considered this until now. Shit, man. That's going to leave me wondering forever. It's the sort of thing I'm not sure I'll ever be able to get an answer to. Commenter 5. Bro, I can't even imagine. Yeah, look forward and don't rush into anything serious for a while. Jesus, you are AG for texting those other guys about it and telling her parents why y'all broke up. I'm just confused on how long y'all were dating and then got married, cause if this isn't the first time, how many months, years has she been cheating and how had you not noticed? Reply. Based on the conversation we had, it seemed like she was intermittently cheating when she went out with friends over the course of our whole relationship. That's an assumption on my part though. She talked around specifics of any other incidents when I asked, and I didn't bother pressing. Final update, my wife went out last night, and didn't come home until this morning. Hey, folks, I'm happy, I guess, to say that this will be the final update to what has been probably the most difficult chapter of my life. I've felt an immense amount of support from the community here for my initial 2 posts, so I wanted to give a short update. Bottom line, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. That's really all I've got to share. Thanks again, everybody, for your advice and support. Stories number 18. While defending his sister, my son pushed an older bully, knocking out the bully's teeth. Am I liable for medical expenses and pain and suffering? This last weekend, my 9-year-old son was playing basketball with my 10-year-old daughter in the driveway. I was inside making their dinner. My son ran inside the house to use the bathroom, leaving his sister shooting hoops alone outside. One of the neighbor boys, 12 years old, henceforth known as the bully, rode by on his bike with a couple of his friends and started teasing and hassling my daughter. He has done this many times before at their school and has been warned against it by the teachers. He has also come onto my driveway before, calling my daughter dirty names and pushing her, and basically being a bully. I've caught him before and warned him away from my property. I even mentioned it to his parents at a recent school event, but they either didn't care or didn't believe me, or both. Back to the story, my son runs inside to use the bathroom and my daughter stays outside playing. The bully comes onto my driveway and starts calling my daughter names and pushing her, and actually punches her in the arm and chest. She tries to defend herself by pushing back, but she is very small for her age, and he is quite big for his. My son, who is also big for his 9 years, sees this as he comes back outside and runs at the bully and blindside pushes him, causing the bully to fall onto his bike. There is lots of blood coming from the bully's mouth. By this time my daughter is screaming, my son is crying, and the bully is hovering between crying and getting angry, and I hear all of the commotion and I run outside. I ask what happened and I get 2 contradictory stories. The bully basically says he was hit by my son unprovoked, and my kids say otherwise. I tell the bully to stay there and I run inside to get a clean towel and some water to help clean him up. When I get back outside, he's gone. Home, presumably. I calm my kids down, clean them up, and take them inside to eat. Afterward, I review the security cam footage that is running 24/7 showing the front of the house and driveway. The video pretty much 100% confirms my kid's story. Last night, which is several days after the event, the bully's father knocks on my door and tells me that he had to take his son to the ER because his teeth were broken, and then later to the dentist. He wants me to pay for all of these expenses plus $1,000 for pain and suffering, otherwise he is going to the cops and press charges against my son for hitting his son and then sue me. I told him I had video of the event that showed his 12-year-old son on my property, despite being warned previously to not ever come back, pushing and hitting my daughter who is younger and smaller than the bully and my 9-year-old son running up to push the bully to stop him from hitting her. His son fell onto his bike, which was the cause of the broken teeth because of the push. I then told him to pound sand and to get off my property. Am I liable for covering this? I don't even want my homeowner's insurance to pay him anything, if that is even covered. My son is allowed to defend his sister who was being physically assaulted, right? All he tried to do was push his sister's attacker to stop him hitting her. My son won't get charged for this, will he? Should I call the police first? I assume he hasn't yet, as I haven't heard anything from them. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. To me it sounds like defense of others. Your son used reasonable force, a push, to defend his sister from a similar level of force being used on her. I wouldn't pay. If it were me, I would actually report the bully for battery and trespass. Also, the parents' demands amount to criminal extortion, so you can feel free to report that to the police as well. The fact that the bully fell on his bike and was seriously injured is too bad, so sad from a criminal point of view. Maybe someone can enlighten from a tort POV. Reply. Thank you for such a quick reply. When the kids get home from school today, I will call the police and report the bully. I am tired of him coming onto our driveway and calling my daughter foul names and now hitting her, since talking to his parents in the past has done nothing. Our security cams record audio as well. It doesn't capture the names that the bully was calling my daughter while he was pushing and hitting her, but it did capture the father's discussion with me last night. I guess I will show the police that video also. Commenter 2. I don't think that the father has met the requirements for criminal extortion, since he pretty clearly can reasonably believe that his son is the victim of a crime. He's not, but that doesn't change anything here. Commenter 3. Depends on more than we know here. He was told there was video. If he backs off, then it's not extortion. If he continues, especially after being given a copy of the video, then it's extortion. Either way, it's enough just at this point to include it in the report. Reply. I did not show him the video. I just told him that I had video of the event and then told him to get off my property. As he left, he said that he was going to get my son arrested for assault unless I paid his expenses and pain and suffering. He was going to give me his bills from the ER and the dentist. OOP tells of past instances with the bully when told to tell the school. I'm calling the police today. I didn't think about calling the school. The principal and teachers didn't do much when I talked to them about the constant foul verbal abuse he was directing at my daughter. I'm not a helicopter parent, but when it didn't go away when I told my daughter to ignore it and then progressed to him following my daughter home and continuing that verbal harassment as she walked home onto our property, I spoke to the principal and later to his parents at a school event a few weeks ago. The teachers just told the bully to stop, which clearly didn't work, and the parents basically called me a liar. I'm worried that based on their previous actions, the school would blame my son, who is at that same school, but several grades below the bully. When told not to call the police and see what happens. Between this morning and now, I called the wife of an old family friend who used to work as a legal secretary before she got married and had kids, and grandkids. She agreed with you 100%. She said that since it's been nearly a week since the event occurred, it is very unlikely that the father will call the cops at all. She also said that legally speaking there is no upside to me calling the cops myself, as they are never going to arrest my 9-year-old son, and she laughed, literally, about the father being successfully prosecuted for extortion. Since the cops haven't already come to speak to me, and I have not been served with a lawsuit yet, there is absolutely nothing to worry about at this time, and likely not ever. If I do get served, she said to call my insurance, show them the videos, and let them worry about it, as that is why I pay them money. I guess you are right. Like you, she has no fear of this kind of stuff. She said to hold on to the video, but to otherwise do nothing, don't worry about it at all, and to just move on. I have decided to do nothing. I'm not going to call the cops. I'm not going to tell the school anything unless the bullying continues. But as of right now, the bully has said not a word to my daughter. Update: the incident happened a while ago, but the resolution only occurred about a month ago. I received lots of advice to go to the police and a lot to not go to the police. In the end, I listened to my family friend and those here who said not to go to the cops. The cops in my town are known to be very sketchy anyway. I refused to pay the father any money for his son's medical expenses and ignored the certified letter he sent me demanding payment. As far as I know, he did not sue me. I did decide to go to the principal and complain again about the constant bullying and showed her the video of the incident. She made sympathetic comments and said she would investigate, but I could tell she just wanted me out of her office. She said that she couldn't do anything that occurred away from the school, and said she would talk to the bully and his teachers and deal with him appropriately. She spoke to my daughter and the bully, and then nothing happened. I spoke to the teacher and she told me that the principal doesn't do discipline well and only cares about district politics. To be honest, I didn't care because the bully stopped picking on my daughter and moved on to another victim. I felt bad, but what could I do? A few days after I went to the principal, the cops showed up at my house to speak to me and the kids about the incident. I refused to let them in the house or to answer their questions. But I did offer to email the cop the videos of the incident and the father's threat to pay the medical bills or else he'd call the cops. I never heard back from them. Since then, my daughter and bully both started middle school. Unfortunately, the principal was promoted to be principal of the middle school and transferred when my kids did. It turns out the latest victim of the bully was another girl who had no older siblings or younger brothers. It was not generally known, but it also turns out that she was the granddaughter of the principal. I knew because I know the principal's daughter-in-law, the mother of the latest victim. I don't know all the details, but it seems that since the bullying involved her granddaughter, much more stringent discipline was available. The bully was suspended from school and transferred to a school in the district for problem kids. So he is now another school's problem. I guess if my daughter had been related to the principal, that could have happened over a year ago. It just shows that it's all about who you know. In case you're interested, my daughter and son have both started taekwondo and they absolutely love it. Stories number 19. Aita for telling my mom she's not my kid's mom. Throwaway because I just want a verdict and to be done with it. So for background, I 28F and my husband 30M have 2 kids. 7M and 4F. My mother is actually a great-grandmother. She lives the kids and is very helpful, but she has this habit overstepping, so both our kids do chores. We give them things to do that they're capable of doing. Like my son does the dishes sometimes after dinner. My daughter will help set and clean up the table afterwards. Those kinds of things. My mom came to visit us recently and I've been noticing she's been doing this thing. She stops my son from whatever chore he's doing and does it for him, but if she sees my daughter doing something she won't. At first I thought she just didn't want her grandkids to do work because she often calls me a cold mother for making them do chores, but then I figured out the pattern and it rubbed me the wrong way because I remembered she used to do the same thing to me. My brothers would do nothing while I did everything, so I started correcting her and making my son finish his chores himself, which made her really agitated. Yesterday we were having dinner and my daughter and husband were clearing up the table because it was my son's turn to do the dishes. She tried stopping him, but I told him to the dishes and took her outside. She told me I'm so cold for making my son wash dishes and why couldn't I do it. I explained to her that we like to split chores evenly in the house and if he's capable he should. It was like 5 plates and cups and a few spoons. She kept going and she called me lazy, something she would often do whenever I asked my brothers to help me out with chores. Here's where I may be an asshole. I told her she's one to talk after making me clean up after everybody my whole life. I told her I'm not going to enable my son to be fucking losers like her sons. My little brother literally had to be spoon-fed until he was 10 because he refused to eat if my mom didn't feed him. I was apparently ill-treating my son by making him do all these chores. I told her I'm teaching him to be independent and that she may have raised 2 boys but she's not my kid's mom, so she should FCK off when I'm trying not turn my son into an incompetent asshole. She left crying. My dad called and told me she's moping around. My husband says it was deserved, but he really doesn't like my mother because he's seen over the years how she treats me compared to how she treats my brothers. Did I go too far, and any advice is appreciated, thank you. Stories number 20. Boyfriend doesn't want to propose after 8 years but says he will go to the courthouse tomorrow. I am a 30F and I've been with my 39M boyfriend for 8 years. I do not want kids, and he supports this, but I would like to be married soon. We have been open with each other about wanting to get married since day one and we have lived together for 4.5 years. At the 4-year mark, I brought up getting engaged and he said it wasn't the right time because once engaged he wants us to be married within a year. However, he felt like things were too busy with work etc. Then the next year I brought it up again and same thing. Year after that, we were talking about rings and I showed him the $1,500 ring I wanted on Etsy. He liked the design and I sent him the link but I didn't set a timeline or anything. But he seemed hesitant and said wanted a perfect proposal. I told him it doesn't need to be an extravagant proposal and could be very simple. Last year, I brought up this topic again and he said the proposal was too much pressure and would rather skip ahead to the wedding. So even though I didn't completely understand his hang-up, he is a very confident and non-anxious man, I started looking up wedding venues and getting excited. Then he shut it down and said it was too much and to ask him in 6 months. I waited 12 months because he got injured around the 6-month mark. Lately, he's been having more issues with me, doesn't like my new hiking backpacking hobby, feels like I don't prioritize him, saying he is an afterthought and that this was an issue in his last long-term relationship too, and bringing up problems that I thought we solved from years ago. I feel like I am a great girlfriend but he has high expectations. I am starting individual therapy to work on myself because I am feeling like I'm not good enough etc. Last week, I brought up engagement marriage in couples therapy and how I am worried he is not going to commit to me because he isn't happy and has all these issues with me. He got super upset and defensive, and said he is dreading the proposal but excited to be married to me. He said he'd go to the courthouse tomorrow. But he basically said there will not be a proposal. I even said he could propose on the couch at home, but I just want him to ask. I don't want to ask. He even brought up an excuse saying I don't like to wear rings. Which is true because I work with my hands for my job, but I've said for many years that I will wear the engagement wedding rings but maybe put a silicone ring on at work. Our therapist suggested we should try focusing on just the marriage part. It was a really frustrating conversation. I appreciate my boyfriend reassuring me that he wants to be with me and is serious about marrying me, but after I waited another year to bring this up and then to have him get so mad and make excuses. I'm really questioning things. I know he loves me and I have accepted he is stubborn, but I don't think I am being unreasonable for wanting a proposal. It hurts to hear he's dreading the proposal. Plus, it's a tough pill to swallow knowing there won't be a proposal when I made it clear I want one. I'm in a weird spot because now anything I do or say moving forward in relation to wedding planning will feel like I'm forcing him. How should I proceed? Going to the courthouse after all of this doesn't feel right but maybe I need to change my mindset. I also do not think he will take initiative and ask me to go to the courthouse. On Reddit, I see other couples skipping the proposal, eloping, and being happy in their marriage. But I also see lots of posts advising women to leave the relationship. I have some friends saying to just let go of the proposal and other friends saying my boyfriend is on thin ice lol. Looking for some kind and honest advice. Thank you. Summary, boyfriend, 39M, told me, 30F, he doesn't want to propose after 8 years but says he will go to the courthouse tomorrow. He says the proposal is too much pressure and he is dreading it, but he is very direct in saying he wants to marry me. He gets very upset and defensive when I bring up this topic and I don't know how to move forward. Edit, thank you everyone. This is my first Reddit post and I appreciate all the comments. I am still working on reading everything. Thank you. Comments. Commenter 1. Sorry, OP, but I'm not liking the looks of this. You've been very clear about what you want, but instead of finding ways to give it to you, your BF is stalling, making excuses, and breadcrumbing you by saying he wants marriage but doing nothing about it. All he's offering is a perfunctory courthouse marriage, and it's clear that you'd like at least a little more, nice proposal, ring, which isn't unreasonable. You're being shut down and put on the defensive when you try to discuss this with him. You're making yourself smaller and asking for less and less trying to appease him. And now, after 4.58 years, suddenly he's finding all sorts of fault with you. Edit, updated timeline. Ask yourself, are these the actions of a loving partner? Not in my book they aren't. Commenter 2, I think knowing a partner was dreading proposing to me would totally crush my soul. She deserves someone who is excited to propose and marry her. And totally agree with the breadcrumbing part. Why has the excuse changed every year? It's like a trickle truth. I don't even think OP should call his bluff at this point. Partners who are serious will move heaven and earth to lock that shit down. It shouldn't be a battle. Commenter 3. The summary of your post is, my long-term BF doesn't respect me. He keeps coming up with faults, which he throws in my face when I tell him that I want to spend forever with him as a married couple. Update. We broke up 2 weeks ago. I did call his bluff, but he said he wanted to ask my dad for permission and not elope right away. The next morning, I had a bad gut feeling about eloping and felt like I was pressuring him into it. When I told him how I was feeling, he said either we elope or you'll have to wait until I say I'm ready to start planning the wedding. But that didn't feel right. There were also other issues going on in the relationship which a lot of people highlighted in the comments as the main problem here. I started to really reflect on those issues and wrote a pros-cons list. I was wearing rose-colored glasses and saw how many red flags I ignored. Long story short, he confronted me about being distant and asked if I want to break up. I said yes, and then he gaslit me into thinking the problems I listed were not problems. He said he would do anything to stay with me and even said he would propose. Then a week later he broke up with me and tried to blame me for how things were falling apart. I moved out of our apartment and left him the cats and all the furniture. Around the same time, I was offered travel job in a mountain town close to some national parks and took it. It has been incredibly painful to grieve this relationship, but I truly do believe the saying if he wanted to he would. In the end, we were incompatible. He didn't like how I changed over the years and made me feel like I was the problem. I am now working on rebuilding my self-worth and I am going to hike backpack all summer. I won't let another person dull my light again. I won't make myself smaller. I never want fear to hold me back. It's been an incredibly difficult breakup, but I'm grateful for my friends and family who have been here to support me. Thank you to this community and everyone who left kind comments to encourage me to reevaluate the relationship. Sending love to anyone who is in a similar situation or going through a breakup. Edit. Thank you everyone. Comments. Commenter 1. And now you can be happy. Good riddance to the weights that hold us down. Commenter 2. The worst thing is, she didn't leave him. She let him stay. Her boyfriend broke up with her. Commenter 3. 100% he tried to get back in the dating game by making an online dating account and realized no woman wanted him. Commenter 4. And now even OP doesn't want him. He could have had it all with her back when, but no, he didn't want that. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. In the end, I think it's worked out best for OP. She's starting over in a new place with beautiful scenery and healthy activities. How is that not the plot to a whole bunch of rom-coms? Smiley face. Stories number 21. My fiancé has been lying for months. I 29M need real advice, please. So, I met my now fiancé F26 about 3 years ago through mutual friends of ours. She was very innocent, didn't drink much, didn't smoke, never done drugs. We had a really good relationship and everything was going great, hence why I asked he to marry me. We moved in together around the same time too. She has a daughter, 7, that lives with us too. Anyway, around 6 months ago, my fiancé starts going out drinking with her friends often. Which is totally fine, I always offer to pick her up if she is stuck too. However, it became more and more often, from once every 2 months to every single weekend without fail. Then she started staying out overnight, but she always told me where she is and was always back around 9 a.m. I started to worry because this just wasn't usual behavior for her. Even though she told me where she was, it was very unusual for her to act like this. So cut forward to maybe 3 months after the first time she stayed out all night, she goes out with her friends and again stays out all night. This time though she didn't come home. In the morning, there was also no contact from her at all. So naturally I contacted her friend, P, via phone who she was out with. They said we left her at the bar with her friend, L, M26, who I had never heard of before. This guy had never been mentioned. My fiancé was the type of girl to never be around another guy. I didn't know this guy's full name so I couldn't contact him. Her friend who I was on the phone with also said, I have something else to tell you too, your fiancé has also been doing drugs. For a while, we left her with the guy who she buys it off. I'm sorry. So, my head started spinning. I was worried about where she was but also what she was doing. again this was a girl that would never ever be near another guy and never do drugs, so I was perplexed. About 12 noon, after I had exhausted all my options contacting all of her friends' family to ask if they had seen her, all saying they had not, I started to get really worried. Maybe rashly, I contacted the police to report her missing. At this point I was on the verge on tears as I thought she could be dead. It may have been irrational, but I was genuinely worried. Once I had officially reported her missing, I then had to contact her parents and tell them the same thing: she didn't come home, I cannot contact her, etc. They were wailing down the phone to be crying and screaming. Another 3 hours pass, her mum constantly ringing for updates. When my fiancé decided it's time to come home, she walked through the door and I was relieved but also furious. I walked over to her, gave her a hug but demanded to know where she had been. I felt like I deserved to know. She told me I stayed at P's house, the friend of hers I had spoke to hours before. I knew this wasn't true as I had had a conversation with P, so I told my fiancé, I know you are lying. She said, I swear down on my daughter's life, that is the truth. I said again, I know you are lying as I have spoke to P and she has confirmed that she left you in the bar. I asked, who were you with when P left you? She said, I was alone. I promise, I was alone. Again I said, I know this is a lie, you were with L, who is he to you? She said, how do you know? I said, P told me. Anyway, I won't go into specifics of the whole conversation, but she continued to lie, said she was only with L for 20 minutes, then it was an hour, then it was I don't know how long. She eventually told me that she stayed at her friend Laura's house. I said, is that the actual truth? She said, I promise that is the truth. So, being the silly man I am, I believed her. I also asked her about the drugs. She lied, said she had only done them twice and she regretted it both times. I knew this wasn't true due to my conversation with P. She still to this day tells me it's just twice, but the fact her friends rang me and told me that she is always doing drugs leads me to believe that only doing them twice isn't true. Anyway, cut to 2 weeks ago, we were out with her friends. I had a few too many drinks, and I asked her friends where my fiancé stayed that night. I asked 3 of her friends, all 3 of them told me a different story. Not one of them told me the same story she told me. So I brought it up to my fiancé, probably the wrong time to do it when I was drunk. I said, I asked all of your friends where you stayed that night, all of them told me a different version of events. What is the truth? One of her friends, R, said she stayed at her house, another friend, T, said she stayed at the L, the guy's house, and the third friend said she stayed in her mum's shed. So, I questioned her on it. I said, are any of these stories true? She said yes, one of them is. I asked which one. She said she stayed in her mum's shed. Now, personally, I said I don't believe her. I asked why she would need to lie about where she stayed if she stayed in her mum's shed. She said, I didn't want to disappoint you. She said she thinks she was spiked and couldn't remember where she lived, but could remember her mum's address. This is the story she has stuck with. She stayed in her mum's shed. She had only done drugs twice and she was only with L for a bit but didn't stay at his house. So now on Monday of this week, she said she is going out with her friends on Saturday. Naturally, I am worried about this. After everything that has happened, I am worried, but I said no problems, go out, enjoy yourself. Inside, I don't really want her to go out, but I am not here to control her and tell her she can't go out. I just asked her respectfully, after everything that has happened, if she could please come home after her night out. I feel like this isn't a big ask, as my thoughts are you would want to come home to your fiancé. She tried to tell me from her point of view, that if she stays at her friend's house and tells me that it isn't a big deal as she is telling me where she is. I tried to explain to her that, after everything I have some trusting issues. She just laughed at me, like laughed directly in my face. She said she understands that I have trust issues but said if she is having a good time with her friends, she doesn't want to come home just because I want her to be at home. She isn't going to ruin her night out because I want her home. I felt like a lot like my feelings are invalid because she wants to have fun with her friends and I would be getting in the way of that. I am not a controlling person, I don't have access to her phone, I don't know her code for it either. I have never looked through her phone, but since this has all happened she is ultra protective of her phone, which she never was. She is always on it, texting, on messaging 24/7. The phone does not leave her side, she even puts it under her pillow when she sleeps at night to keep it protected. Also she deletes messages on her phone, often too. I have seen her do it. She says it's part of her OCD, which I understand, but she is constantly deleting messages. I am not sure if I have just noticed it more because there is a lack of trust, but it feels like she is deleting messages constantly, multiple times a day. She will send a text, then immediately delete the text chain. It gives the impression that she is hiding something, even if that isn't her intention. In her words, she didn't lie about doing drugs, she evaded the truth. We had a conversation the day after she had done them. Before I knew she was taking them, I said I would never do drugs again. I did them when I was a teenager, it doesn't appeal to me, and she said I would never do them either. Just the day before though, she was doing them. So her thought on it is she didn't lie, as I didn't directly ask her if she has done them, she just evaded the truth. So, my questions are: is it okay to not trust my fiancé? Is it normal for wanting her to come home after a night out? Not wanting her to lie about where she has been and who she has been with? Lastly, is it okay for feeling uncomfortable that she is constantly on her phone texting, messaging 24/7 and deleting all her messages? What should I do? My brain is telling me to leave the relationship as it is so toxic, the lying, the deception and the clear lack of respect for my feelings. My heart is telling me to stay with her. In all honesty, I love her. I love her daughter too. I see her as my own daughter and protect her as if she was my own too. Any advice, guidance, anything at all, please help me. Stories number 22. Women asked for a more experienced bike mechanic because I looked really young. I was a bicycle mechanic for 7 years. I started when I was 22 up until last year. Worked on and built some high-end bikes. I look very young because I got that Asian blood. I was working the service counter, which is usually for people who are experienced enough to diagnose a bike. I'm maybe 26-28 at the time, just before I became the service manager. In comes a middle-aged woman and start to try and help her out. But she doubts my knowledge of bicycles and thought I was just a helper or something. She asks for someone who is older and more experienced because she doesn't trust me with her fancy bike. It happened kinda often, and this lady was being an elitist snob. We have this newer older tech that started with us maybe 2 years prior, and he's old enough where he was alive during the Vietnam draft. But he's pretty new to the industry and we're also wanting him to get comfortable working the counter when I am on lunch or if it gets really busy. This lady sees him and asks for him. So I smiled and said okay, sure. I ask him to help the lady out and I help out the rest of the service line on a busy Saturday. The newer tech builds bikes well, but is also still learning how to diagnose problems and find the right parts. So naturally he's taking a longer time. In the meantime, I'm helping out people left and right, booking service tickets from low dollar value to high dollar value, finding everything I need. Newer tech would occasionally ask me questions on how to find the correct parts from our distributor or our parts shelf, and if this piece is too worn or not. I can see the lady is getting impatient. She then asked the newer tech, how long have you been working on bikes, and he says about 2 years, and proceeds to tell her about me, that I've been doing it for a long time and that I may look young and inexperienced, but I know what I'm doing. Then what he said next gave me a pretty good chuckle. He said you can't judge a book by its cover, he might just know how to fix your bike. If he overheard the lady ask for an older, more experienced mechanic, but I did not tell him what this lady asked for. Lady was not amused. Meanwhile, I had just helped maybe 15 plus customers in the what was probably in 45 minutes, an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Time flies during the rush. I was able to do that number because I had other techs in the back I could send quick tube changes or minor adjustments to if the line got too long. He also liked to chat a little bit. After the rush was over, he was still helping her. I looked at the other tech and said I'm going to lunch. Came back from Taco Bell across the street and she was just barely leaving the store. I smiled and said, have a great day, miss. She just kept walking. TLDR, women asked for the older tech because she thought he had more experience than me, but he was actually a newer tech that was still learning to diagnose and troubleshoot. She spent a longer time at the shop than she was expecting and got impatient. Maybe a lame story to most, but I think it's pretty petty. Stories number 23. Sister is mad that I have no reaction to her talking to my ex-girlfriend. My sister recently told me she has been getting coffee regularly with an ex-girlfriend whom broke up with me way back in 2005. She hid it from me for over 2 months, and then when she eventually told me and asked if I was okay with it, I had no visible reaction and asked her what she wanted from me. This ex and I dated from 1999 to 2005, from the ages of 14 to 20. She was cheating on me for the last 2 years and left me for the guy. It was 20 years ago. I'm 40 now. I was heartbroken but dealt with it and moved on. I have a wife I've been married to for 12 years. I'm a dad to 3 kids. Why would I care about someone from 20 years ago? My sister is frustrated because I have no reaction. She wants to know I'm okay with it or not. They were good friends back then but stopped talking when the breakup happened, but she says it's like all that time hasn't passed. I guess she wants my approval. Like I said, I literally don't care. If she wants to talk to her, that's fine, but I won't be interested. It's her life. She can talk to who she wants. ETA, my sister also felt as betrayed as I did about the cheating, hence why they stopped talking, but again the whole affair was 20 years ago and I dealt with the hurt and have moved on from it. I genuinely don't feel weird if my sister is talking to her again. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA, it was 20 years ago and you've more than moved on. I actually think you're being quite mature, and having no reaction would be a normal response to hearing about someone you haven't seen or heard from in 20 years. Maybe your sister feels guilty for talking to her again because of the cheating. Reply, I can see why she may feel guilty because she was swiftly on my side and felt extremely hurt and betrayed too, but again it was a very long time ago and I literally don't care who she talks to, as it's not like it just happened. Commenter 2, how did they start talking again if they haven't seen each other in so long? Reply, she said apparently she was out getting stuff for my nieces when she bumped into my ex by chance. They talked for a bit, ended up exchanging numbers, have been talking most days, doing a lot of catch-up, and have been getting coffee at least once a week now. Commenter 3, Nta. Just to tell her that you are fine with it, full stop. Why exactly did she get mad at you for not showing a reaction? Reply, I honestly don't know. Commenter 4, NTA. You've maturely moved on and made peace with how your relationship ended. You don't want to get involved either way, and rightfully so, therefore it's not for you to give or withhold permission. If she continues to push you for an answer, tell her that you don't care either way but what your boundaries may be regarding the relationship, e.g. you don't care and don't want to hear about it, don't want her bought around your children and wife, etc. Might be best to loop your wife in just so she is aware and not caught out if your sister brings your ex somewhere. Update. I posted yesterday, https www.reddit.com or Aita SNBCHH5 or 0EO, that for the past couple of months my sister has been talking and regularly meeting up for coffee with my ex-girlfriend. We broke up 20 years ago because she left me for another man, and I am now 40, quite happily married and a dad, and I had no reaction cause I literally don't care about the past or what my sister does. I realized I had never given my sister an exact answer, just that I had no visible reaction, just that I asked her what she wanted from me and she was frustrated over it. I ended up calling her not that long ago and we talked about it. I asked why she felt so strongly about wanting to know my feelings about it, and a lot of you suspected she wanted approval, and you were right. I explained in my original post that my sister and ex were quite good friends and that the friendship ended cause I got cheated on and my sister also felt betrayed. The two hadn't spoken in 20 years. When my sister and my ex were friends, they did a lot with me and together. They did a lot together and were almost like best friends, and my sister told me that of course she was pissed and felt betrayed about the cheating, but also sad because she lost her only genuine friend at that time. I know she has really struggled to maintain good friendships, so she said when she happened to bump into my ex by chance and that they picked up where they left from, she leapt at the chance to kickstart their friendship. She said it's like a fog has been lifted from her and that she feels like she has her best friend back. She said she wanted to tell me but thought I'd be weird about it because at the time, I was so cut up about the breakup. She feels really guilty for being happy about rekindling a friendship with someone who caused me so much pain. After hearing all that, I understand why she wants to maintain the friendship and why she didn't want to tell me. I explicitly told her that I have no reaction to it because without sounding like a dick, I really don't care who she spends her time with. I told her I feel enough time has passed that I can accept my ex is in her life, especially since my sister told me she is still with the man she left me for and they are married and have a family, so they are obviously serious. She also said her daughters, my nieces, are the same age as my ex's kids and that it would be good for the kids to be friends too, which I get as they don't have many. Like I said, have also moved on and have been married for 12 years and I have 3 kids. I basically told my sister if she is looking for my blessing, she has it, but that I won't be involved or really interested in the friendship because it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I also told her she shouldn't feel guilty as it's happened, it's done, and I moved on and recovered from it. Like if I saw the ex I would be civil, but I wouldn't be weird or anything about it cause again, I don't really care. Plus from the sounds of it the ex will really only be mingling with my sister, potentially my BIL and their kids, so I may not see her at all. She left the call feeling at least happier, and I'm just glad she has a friend back, I suppose. Not an exciting update or anything, but I guess a good outcome. We were just mature and civilized. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I was hoping you'd update. We exchanged a couple of comments and I did wonder if she felt guilty because you were cheated on, and I guess it was right. I'm glad you two are mature enough to talk about it and that there's no issues. Reply, well, my sister is happy and it's out in the open now, so that's all that matters, I suppose. Commenter 2, advice. Your sister already mentioning your ex's kids and yours should be friends. Full stop. You need to follow up with her, it's a huge red flag. Especially if she gets your kids for a day with auntie and she sets up play dates behind your wife's back. You will effectively implode your wife and sister's relationship and put you squarely in the middle, as you rightfully should be, for not drawing respectful boundaries. Your sister mentioning this is her sharing her vision of bringing your ex in for the family to engage with. What's next, family barbecues? Just know. I guarantee she's already breached yours and your wife's privacy by catching your ex up on your and your wife's life, which she'll be regularly updating as life happens. Shut this down, and you'll need to put your sis in an information diet now about personal matters regarding you and your wife's personal matters. Because best friends tell each other everything, right? Also expect your sis to want you and ex mend and become friends. Protect your peace and your wife's peace. But sure, your sis and her reunion is not a biggie otherwise. Reply, my kids weren't mentioned at all. My sister's children and my ex's children can be friends. Not mine. Commenter 3, as long none of them are expecting you to reconcile with your ex and have her at events with your partner and kids, seems fine. Reply, God no, my sister was only talking about the ex being involved in her life and potentially her kids being friends with the ex's kids. Commenter 4, is ex still with her affair partner? Reply, yes, I believe they are now married with children. Stories number 24. Aita for skipping my brother's wedding because I wasn't invited to the engagement party. I, 28M, have a twin brother. Growing up, we were inseparable, and until recently I thought we were still very close. I was always more of a shy nerd and he was an extrovert that played sports throughout our childhood and high school, but we spent almost all of our time together, by choice. We went our separate ways when college came. He stayed local in Arizona and I went to college in Portland. When I graduated, I stayed there because I fell in love with the city, my friends are here, my professional networks from internships were here, etc. But I always flew back home for holidays, events, birthdays, etc. My brother announced on Instagram that he and his girlfriend of 3 years got engaged. I was incredibly happy for him and texted him congrats. He mentioned they were planning to have an engagement party in 6 to 8 weeks and I told him to let me know so I can book a flight to come celebrate. I was never told a date. If I brought it up with him or anyone in my family, they'd change the subject or say it's still being planned and confirmed. After a few weeks I texted my brother to ask about the date because it must be getting close and I don't want to pay for a last-minute flight. No response. I asked my mom for details and she said, it's not really an engagement party, just a small dinner with family. There's no need to come down for it. I eventually found out that it was, in fact, a big party. They rented out an entire restaurant for 4 hours and there were about 80 guests, family, friends, cousins, everyone. Everyone was told I couldn't make it. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, texted me that she was very disappointed I couldn't make time to join and I replied that I would have happily come, but I was not invited. Word spread quickly about my snub and my parents and brother tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. That was almost over a year ago. Since then I've tried to get to the bottom of why I wasn't invited. Over the course of months it went from, it was just meant to be a small gathering, to I don't know what happened, there must have been a miscommunication, to it's just a party. It's no big deal. I asked my brother if he was mad at me, I thought maybe his fiancé didn't like me. Even if she or he didn't want me there, why were my parents okay with this? This really wasn't like them. Christmas and Easter was awkward as hell because no one but me wanted to address the elephant in the room and any conversation about anything was like small talk with strangers. When I visited in May for my sister's birthday, I left early after my sister said, "You moved so far away. It's like you're not really family anymore. You make everything feel so weird now." 9 months ago I got the save the date announcement and 6 months ago I got the invitation to the wedding. I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, which is fine and wasn't surprising at the point. My sister and younger brother were asked to be in the wedding party, so another snub. I also didn't get a +1 for my girlfriend I've been seeing for almost a year and a half. My sister, however, got a +1 for her FWB, so I decided I wasn't welcome and I was probably only invited for optics and to play happy family. I didn't RSVP no since I knew that would cause a shitshow, I just didn't go. The wedding was this past weekend. No one contacted me about missing the rehearsal dinner, so I guess even if I did go, I wasn't invited to that either or expected to be there. I started getting calls and texts about an hour before the ceremony asking where I was, if my flight was delayed, how far along I will be, etc., and I ignored them. They stopped for a while during the ceremony but started up again right after. I finally picked up my mom's call and she screamed, "Where the hell are you?" I replied, "In Portland, where you all prefer me to be." She said, "This is your brother's wedding, how could you embarrass us?" I answered, "It's just a party. It's no big deal, right?" It was probably the first time in my life my mother was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Tell everyone I said hi," and I hung up. Now I'm getting calls and texts from everyone saying I was being petty and ruined the day. So am I the AH here? I feel like I'm just matching their energy and dropping the rope. Update, AITA for skipping my brother's wedding because I wasn't invited to the engagement party. To the people who said YTA, I understand your reasons. Yes, it was cowardly to not RSVP to avoid drama, but looking back I was in a headspace where I just caved to the guilt if I RSVP'd that I wasn't planning to attend. Also, a little part of me was hoping they'd realize I didn't RSVP and they'd tell me they want me to come. But every day that passed between the RSVP date and the wedding I got angrier and more hurt and I wanted to make it clear in a big way that if they don't want me around I don't have to be around. And I get that's an AH move. I had a long phone call with my aunt and cousin last night about the wedding drama. They have given me some more info and our suspicions are a bit of conjecture based on what we know and what we've heard, but here it goes. We really do think my mother felt I rejected them when I didn't move back after graduating. This is despite always coming home for my brother and sister's graduations, all birthdays, mine and immediate families, holidays, special events, etc. I practically visit on a monthly basis. But despite this, we think that she has some weird vendetta against me for splitting up her family and being an example to my siblings that they don't have to stay local. Even worse, somehow visiting so often made my mother resentful because my aunt mentioned that my mother once told her a few years ago that I was flaunting my wealth by showing I could visit so often. Thanks to my senior year internship, I went immediately into a field where progression can be quick and thanks to going back for a very specialized master's degree, I am in a very niche space within that field and was able to move up faster. I'm not bragging, it was just luck, connections, and a great mentor early on. People suggested my brother might be jealous. He does earn less, but as far as I know he loves his job. It just doesn't have the same career progression. Honestly, his job is much more exciting than mine and I'm sure it fulfills him a lot more. My job isn't terrible, it's just not one anyone wants to hear work stories about at a dinner party, lol. I was also flaunting my money by gifting family money when they needed it. My grandfather often said, never loan family money. Give it freely if you want to, but you'll destroy relationships when you start asking for repayment. Not a week of Judge Judy reruns goes by without proving that true. So when I could, I gifted my family money when they needed it. Money for car repairs, money to help with my parents' mortgage when my dad was out of work during COVID, money when my brother ran out halfway through his kitchen renovations. And until last night, my parents' internet and Disney Plus bills, but I've now cancelled the monthly auto payments. Again, this was me flaunting my success. But they never stopped asking, either. My aunt and cousin also said they've heard lots of passive-aggressive comments about me over the years. First from my mother during the first few years after I decided to stay in Portland and then eventually from my siblings. We're pretty sure my mother slowly poisoned them against me for not moving back home and showing what happens if they ever tried to move away. Someone said this about my mother meeting my girlfriend in my previous post. TBH, given the context of everything else that's happened, what your mother said here about finally finding someone who can put up with you sounds less like a tongue-in-cheek joke and more like a not-so-subtle barb. I see it now. I laughed it off as just my mom's humor, but I now also see that these passive-aggressive comments to me, to my siblings, over years was subtle manipulation to turn them against me and for me to learn to accept it. A lot of people suggested this treatment was to get me to move back home and to punish me for leaving, but I'm not going to come home to embrace treatment like this and hope it goes away now that they got their way. Especially when it's been too ingrained in them by now. It also explains why for the past few years almost every conversation is initiated by me. They simply don't like me anymore and don't need me until they need or want something. My cousin also learned from another cousin that my brother shot himself in the foot when he mentioned the engagement party. I wasn't supposed to know at all. The plan was to tell everyone I couldn't make it and hope I'd never find out. My brother told that cousin that I wasn't supposed to find out about it, but after he let it slip I wouldn't shut up about asking to come. Based on how they've been talking about me for a couple of years, lots of extended family thinks I'm some annoying loser who makes my too often visits miserable for my family and I can't get the hint to fuck off. So I'm finally fucking off. My aunt and mother never really got along. My aunt is my mother's brother's wife, but my aunt said she knew all of this had my mom's name all over it and that years of digs, passive-aggressive comments, and full-on aggressive comments have all come to this. She said they're not the same people. I told them that I don't think there's any coming back from this, then. My aunt and cousin both mentioned that they never heard my dad say anything bad, so my aunt is going to have my uncle talk to my dad man to see if he can find out what the hell is going on. I thanked my aunt and cousin and reminded them they are pretty much the only family I have left and I don't plan on losing touch with them. My aunt even mentioned that they haven't gone camping in years and asked if there are any nice places around Portland. It's too far to drive to go camping, but it means they may visit sometime. They also said they're going to try to correct info about me with extended family members, but I told them to not bother, they've already chosen to believe it. But for now my immediate family are cut off. I've blocked them on my phone and social media. No more free handouts when they need money. No more wasting money to go to Phoenix fucking Arizona 10+ times a year just to be roasted by the sun and family members. No more punching bag. Thank you all for your support and helping me realize my family really is shitty. Stories number 25. My wife says she despises me for making her return to work part-time after baby was born. I need to know whether I am A, crazy, B, the bad husband my wife says I am, or C, somewhere in between. Some context: we have been married 2 years and welcomed our first child 4 months ago. We both love him unconditionally and I think we are both good parents. We both had full-time jobs and lived comfortably. We bought a nice big house, maybe a mistake as we planned a family and this was always a possibility, and I have always been able to do whatever we wanted within reason financially. My wife's sister lives with us and doesn't work, not her fault, and her parents will move in with us one day with next to no savings and no health insurance. Hence the need for the big house. My wife got 12 weeks of maternity leave, 4 weeks of that was unpaid, and her job agreed for her to return part-time once the leave ended. She's been back at work 6 weeks. I encouraged her to give that a try as I'm self-employed and we get our health insurance from her job. She makes good money but doesn't really contribute too much financially. I pay most of the mortgage and for all the bills and both cars. She tried part-time, 4 hours a day, and our son now struggles more with breastfeeding, which is blamed completely on me and the fact she's out from 930 to 230 every day. I have been telling her for a few weeks now that she can quit work, but she says it's embarrassing to go back and quit so soon. If when she does stop work, we are down 4 to 5K a month with her mortgage contribution and the fact I will now need to pay for health insurance. I will also be the only one paying for food etc. for her sister and parents as well as the two of us. This will be really hard for me to cover alone. I don't think I forced her to go to work. Her parents told her to go back full-time as she gets paid very well and may struggle to get another job with similar compensation. I just said part-time is worth a try until her boss wants her back full-time, at which point she can leave it. I want her to be with our son a good amount, but I think there are many factors to consider. In hindsight, it wasn't worth her going back for a few weeks as it's caused stress to her and issues between us, but being told I despise you when you try your best to be a good husband and father is hard to take. Any advice welcomed. Stories number 26. Aita for refusing to pay for my niece's dream quinceañera even though I promised to help with it 2 years ago. I'm a 36-year-old woman and I make a decent income. I've always tried to be generous with my family. A couple of years ago, my brother, who is 38, mentioned that his daughter, my niece Jules, was really looking forward to her quinceañera when she turned 15. He was having a tough time financially, so I casually said something like, "When the time comes, I'd love to pitch in or help however I can." Fast forward to this year, and Jules is about to turn 15. I get hit with a full wedding-style event proposal. My brother and sister-in-law sent me a PDF presentation, a literal deck, outlining a $23,000 budget. We're talking venue, catering, DJ, designer dress, fireworks, and even a horse-drawn carriage. I was stunned. I told them I couldn't contribute that much, and they said, "Don't worry. We just need $15,000 from you." I thought they were joking. When I said that was out of the question, my brother got defensive and said I promised to help and now I was backing out. I offered $2,000, which I thought was still generous, and said I could help with logistics or DIY decorations. Now I'm the stingy aunt who crushed Jules's dream. Even my mom called me and said I should have expected this since I make more than all of us combined. I feel like they took advantage of my casual offer from 2 years ago. I never said I would pay for the whole party or bankroll a mini-wedding. Aita for saying no. Stories number 27. My friend's husband wants a divorce after her cancer diagnosis. She has 2 young kids. I'm writing this through tears. I can't stop shaking. My best friend, 34F, a bright, funny, selfless woman was just diagnosed with breast cancer. She has 2 small kids, ages 3 and 6. She hasn't even had time to let it all sink in. She's still in shock. And then her husband, the man who promised to love her in sickness and in health, sat her down and said he wants a divorce. Just like that. His exact words, "I can't handle this. No, we'll fight this together. No, you're not alone. Just I'm out." She didn't even cry when she told me. She just stared, like her body hadn't caught up with the pain yet. Now she's trying to figure out how to tell her kids that mommy is sick, and possibly that daddy is leaving too. How is that even real? I'm furious. I want to scream at him. I want to protect her. I want to make this better, but I can't. I feel useless. And she's terrified. She doesn't know how she's going to do this. Cancer, 2 little kids, no partner, no plan. Just fear. And heartbreak. How do you even start to put the pieces back together when everything falls apart all at once? How do you survive cancer and abandonment? If anyone out there has been through anything like this, please tell me what helped. Tell me what to say to her. Tell me how she makes it through this. She's strong. But this is too much for anyone. Stories number 28. New neighbor thinks I'm having an affair when she doesn't know I have a twin brother. My wife and I have been living in our current neighborhood for about 2 years now. Next door neighbor moved in last April, married with no kids and works from home. I had my identical twin brother and his wife visit us last week of June and they decided to stay over for a few days. Unfortunately, they arrived middle of the week and after lunch, so my wife and I were both at work. But we do use a smart lock, so I gave them remote access. They also came in by Uber from the airport, left their luggage at our house, and met my wife and I for dinner downtown. Next day, this neighbor approaches my wife as she was about to leave for work in the morning. I leave later than her and my brother and sister-in-law were still asleep. She asks her if she knew anything or had noticed anything different about me. My wife was a bit taken aback by her question and asks why. She goes on saying she saw me bringing another woman home the day before in a different car. My wife realizes this neighbor's mistake and explains my twin brother arrived in town. Our new neighbor gasps and is obviously embarrassed, but my wife handled it pretty calmly. She even showed our new neighbor our dinner picture with my twin brother and his wife. New neighbor didn't see our group arriving back at home, so made that assumption. My wife and I laughed about it when she shared it with me. All is well until I got a text from a neighbor close to me asking me what I've been up to. Apparently, new neighbor quickly gossiped about me to others. It's annoying because, well, not everyone in the neighborhood saw my twin brother arriving, because it was in the middle of the day. Second, we realized new neighbor talked to 3 other neighbors. Like what the hell? My wife and I were unsure whether or not to explain to the rest what's really the deal, but at the same time, it's quite the effort. We thought of walking around the neighborhood with my brother and sister-in-law, and we did, but it's not like everyone is peeking through their windows or waiting at their porches. I get the whole women have women behind their back, just annoying how quick it spread to others without any attempt to confirm first. Sharing this after the whole Coldplay concert issue LOL, I'm sure that CEO dude has no twin. Stories number 29. For refusing to let my grandpa's gardener take over the house. Hey Comfort Level Podcast, this has been brewing in me for a while, and I finally decided it's time to spill. You were my one most listened to podcast on Spotify Wrapped last year, so obviously I trust you with this unhinged timeline for my life, and me questioning whether or not I am, in fact, the asshole. All names have been changed. I'm using a throwaway account because I may or may not be deeply embarrassed by the feral behavior I'm about to confess. I know this is a kind community, but please be kind, or I will, in fact, vomit from overthinking. Joking. Mostly, I, 28F, wasn't super close with my grandparents growing up. But when my grandmother passed away suddenly, it became painfully obvious that my grandfather was struggling, especially with, well, basic functioning. Picture a Danny DeVito-shaped man with Elvis hair, box-dyed black, of course, who has asked more than once how many Tylenol he should take for a headache. He was completely lost, so I offered to help out once a week. He's in his mid-80s but still works during the day. He likes to stay busy and moving, which made it easy for me to come in the mornings or whenever I wanted. He also pays me, which is a huge help financially. I handled the laundry, cleaned floors, changed sheets, reorganized, decluttered, you name it. He told me I could do whatever I wanted with the space. My grandma, who had been a stay-at-home spouse, had collected a lot of stuff over the years. He actually encouraged me to move furniture and make changes to freshen up the house, and honestly, it felt good. Therapeutic, even. I never really had a relationship with my grandfather before, but we started bonding. I'd go over in the morning, clean, start dinner, and wait for him and my parents for our weekly family dinner. It was sweet and calm and felt like something we all needed. Then came Janet. Janet, mid-60s F, was originally hired to pull weeds in the garden. She was about 15 years younger than my grandfather and gave off big laugh, lavender oil energy, quirky, earthy, overly sweet. We thought it was nice that he had company during the day when we couldn't be there. And honestly, at first her energy was endearing. Then she started sticking around after her shifts. At first, she'd join us before dinner to say hi to my parents and catch up. No big deal. But my grandfather was clearly smitten. After a week or so he practically dragged her to the table to join us for dinner with a glass of wine in hand, grinning ear to ear. Then it became routine for her to join us, always saying the same line, "Oh, this looks delish." Then it would be every morning. I'd walk in to find her already there, not in the garden but in the house. I'd find her brewing coffee, reading the newspaper like she lived there, already comfortable. Then she started staying the night. Then several nights. Then most nights, I'd find her wearing my grandma's old bathrobe and helping with the decluttering, digging through drawers and cabinets because he asked her to. Sometimes I wouldn't even know she was there until I would walk in because she started borrowing my grandma's old car because hers was in the shop. She had her own apartment, allegedly, but it started feeling like she was basically living there full-time within a few months. She had picked her own bathroom and a bedroom for her to get ready. She would even close the doors like it was her personal space and would say, "Don't worry about cleaning my rooms. I do that myself." She filled the closets with her clothes. She brought in trinkets from her own place to make it feel more like hers. Oh, and my grandfather gave her a credit card for household needs, but I often saw grocery bags in her car that I'm 99% sure went to her apartment. Still, I kept my cool. She made my grandfather happy and was staying out of my way, until she wasn't. She started hovering when I was cleaning. Her comments were casual at first. "What product are you using on the floors?" Or, "Oh, you do the cleaning like that? You should try this way." It even got to a point where she was texting me. My grandfather went to Florida for a few weeks and asked me to house sit. During that time, she texted me constantly. Things I'd already been doing for the past year. Suddenly it was all reminders and tips and don't forgets. It got under my skin. Then one day she said, "Your grandfather told me he doesn't like how much you've changed the house. He said it doesn't feel like his anymore. He didn't want to hurt your feelings, so he asked me to tell you." What? I felt awful. Anybody who knows him, knows he is not the confrontational type and avoids anything uncomfortable, so this could very well be on brand for him. Out of guilt, I stopped rearranging furniture and just stuck to basic cleaning. But then, weird stuff started happening. I'd leave, come back the next week, and things would be different. Picture frames turned. Chairs slightly moved. At first, I thought it was my aunt or someone else in the family. We all have keys. So I'd quietly put things back because I didn't want the blame on me. Then it'd happen again. Eventually, Janet admitted it, she'd been moving everything, and claimed my grandfather was helping her do it. Then she started getting bolder. For instance, she started hiding furniture she didn't like. She removed 2 antique armchairs that belonged to my great-grandmother and hid them in the basement. She took down photos of my grandmother and family members she didn't like and stuffed them into cupboards in between towels. She even took all the window screens off the windows because they ruined the aesthetic and hid them from me because I love opening the windows on my days there for fresh air. One time she even said I was ironing wrong and left a note to let her do it instead because my grandfather would prefer it. But the final straw. She removed all of my great-grandfather's original paintings, including several of my grandmother that he'd done himself, from the walls of what she had now dubbed her office, and stashed them in the cold, damp cellar. As an artist, I was livid. Not only were they emotionally valuable to me and my family, but they're pieces that need to be stored properly to avoid damage. That's when I confronted my grandfather directly. And his response? He begged me not to quit despite my obvious discomfort. Told me Janet wasn't replacing me. That he wanted me there. Classic avoidant grandparent energy, keeping everyone calm but solving nothing. And me? I didn't want to cause a scene. I have awful anxiety around conflict and sudden changes. So I decided to stay. So AITA for still being there, still cleaning, and maybe getting a little petty later on. Update, for refusing to let my grandpa's gardener take over the house. TLDR of the original, my grandfather hired a woman named Janet to help in his garden, and now she's slowly taking over his house, gaslighting the family, and may or may not be trying to become the next Mrs. DeVito Elvis. Before I dive into the next part of the story, I just want to take a moment to genuinely thank everyone who's followed along, left kind comments, offered advice, or even voiced concerns and frustrations. I've read every reply, and while some have been tough to read, I understand where many of you are coming from. That said, I'd like to clarify a few things, because this story, and my role in it, can easily be misunderstood without the full context. First off, I am one of many grandchildren. My grandfather has 3 adult children, several in-laws, 8 grandkids, and an extended family that includes multiple siblings, 4 of whom live nearby. I'm not the sole caretaker, nor am I the person who makes decisions about his life. I've never claimed to be. I'm just the one who happened to be there the most consistently, and that visibility sometimes makes it feel like I'm more in charge than I actually am. Also, as I mentioned in my first submission, my grandfather is not a helpless man. He's incredibly sharp, fiercely independent, and very capable of doing what he wants, when he wants. He still works full-time, drives himself, and is very sassy when someone underestimates him. But when it comes to things like housework, laundry, cleaning, organizing, those were always handled by my grandmother. After she passed, he admitted he had no interest in learning and preferred someone he trusted to take care of it. That's where I came in, once a week, as part of a routine he requested. Lastly, and this is important, the first post was only the beginning of this whole situation. I've seen a few comments suggesting I'm to blame for letting Janet in or for not doing enough to remove her, but that's simply not how this dynamic works. I can only control what I can. I'm doing my best in a situation where, quite frankly, I don't have a lot of power. I'm not here to be the family savior. I'm here because I care, because I noticed something wasn't right, and because I'm trying to protect someone I love without creating even more chaos in an already fragile environment. Thanks for hearing me out. Now, on to the next part. When we left off, she had just removed my great-grandfather's paintings from the walls and stashed them in the cold, damp cellar because she didn't like the way they looked in her new office. Her office. That's when I had enough and confronted my grandfather. But, classic grandpa move, he dodged conflict by giving everyone what they wanted to hear. She's not replacing you. I want you both around. Let's all just get along. So I stayed. Not because I'm passive, but because I was worried, and I had no idea how far this woman was willing to go. But things were already getting worse. Janet wasn't just freeloading. She was getting paid. A lot. My grandfather technically hired her for gardening, and like me, she was supposed to log her own hours. But I found her notebook one day left out on the kitchen counter and, well, let's just say she's got hustle. She was billing him for things like organizing the fridge. There's barely anything in there. He either eats out or we bring meals, laundry, her own, meal prep, literally microwaving soup, running errands, with his credit card, tending the garden. I saw her sipping wine by the pool, tanning and scrolling on her phone. She was logging 8-hour days. Multiple times a week. Even on days I was there, watching her do absolutely nothing. And then she started actively undoing the work I was doing. She'd tell my grandfather I was doing things wrong. That I was too young to understand proper cleaning. She'd follow behind me and correct things. She even started making up new house rules, saying my grandfather wanted them, like not moving a certain chair, or not using certain cleaning products. She even went as far to call my mom, who had been dodging her calls at this point, to cry and whine to her how I shouldn't be there. At this point, we have had multiple meetings with my grandfather, one-on-one, with my parents. The message was not getting any clearer and even more frustrating. I would tell my grandfather everything that's happening, show him the proof, express how I'm not comfortable and how it's affecting me. He always would respond the same way. He would respond how he would think we want him to respond. He'd agree, say it was awful, tell me to tell her to go to hell and that he'll talk to her. We even had meetings with her and made a new agreement, which was, I would clean on my scheduled days. She wouldn't be there when I was. No one would touch the furniture. It worked, for about 3 weeks. Then she started pushing again, showing up when I arrived, sneaking around. She even started leaving me notes. On cabinets. In drawers. Near the laundry. Always in spots she knew I'd see, and my grandfather wouldn't. Why do you insist on moving this chair when you know I use it every day? Do not touch the furniture. You are damaging everything. Where is, insert item. What is wrong with you? So guess what? I went right back to moving things. This is when I hit my breaking point. While she and my grandfather were away on a month-long vacation, funded entirely by him, I was asked to house sit. And what I walked into made my blood run cold. She had moved almost all of the furniture in the house in ways that made no sense. Taken 4 out of the 8 dining room chairs and placed them against the wall in the sunroom. Taken an armchair and put it near the front door. Removed garbage bins and replaced them with large ceramic garden pots. Removed all the curtains, stuffed them in drawers, and bent curtain rods, leaving holes in the walls. Removed all of the family photos of the family members that she disliked. It felt like she was trying to erase us all from the house. I called my mom, sobbing. She came over, helped me put everything we could back in place, and tried to fix the damage. Some items were lost or ruined. This for me was the last straw, but I literally had weeks of them gone to build up my frustration. I'm known as quite the prankster in my family, and I'm begging all the commenters to be nice to me. I know what I did next wasn't mature or nice, but I was literally at my last nerve. So I decided to mess with her in every petty way possible, in a way that she would never be able to actually pin on me. I moved all of her clothing items into different random drawers. Took 1 sock from each pair. Poured boiling water on her indoor plants. Scratched the good DVDs and left all the bad ones. Dumped out most of her bathroom essentials so only a little was left. Moved the bookmarks out of each of her books to different pages. Moved everything in her room slightly, just enough for her to notice they'd been touched. Moved all of the furniture back to their original spots. Anything that was slightly inconvenient for her, I did it. She was gone. So I made it known, this house is not yours. Amidst my revenge chaos, I also went through her things only to discover documents she had hidden, financial info, receipts, sensitive paperwork, and saved copies. Nothing like the will that many of you have mentioned. My grandfather is very wealthy and has a team of lawyers where they handle all of his things, and the will has been done years before any of this, but bank statements and info on how much my grandfather has that she was snooping, so I took those and decided my next course of action. I decided to include my aunt. My aunt, we'll call her Kim, didn't like Janet and was suspicious of her from the beginning. After hearing about the billing, the constant notes, and the strange power dynamics, we decided to do a little undercover work. We did a background check on Janet. Without sharing too many personal details, let's just say what she found was horrifying. Janet had a criminal record. She and her ex-husband had been involved in a large-scale fraud case that involved millions of dollars. Her name was on court documents. Her ex-husband had been charged. She'd been acquitted, but it was clear she wasn't exactly innocent since her signature and name were all over the documents. This was the proof we needed that all of the worry was very much needed, and we needed to come up with a plan quick. There's a lot more to this story, including what we did with the background check info, how my grandfather reacted, and how this whole situation nearly imploded our family dynamic. But I'll stop here for now, because I know these posts are already getting long and wild enough to qualify as a Netflix docuseries. Thank you again for sticking with me. If you're still curious, I'll post more soon. Stories number 30. Aita for refusing to chip in for a friend's birthday trip when I'm not even going. So this happened recently and I'm still wondering if I handled it wrong. My friend group, we're all late 20s, has this tradition of doing birthday outings for each other. Usually it's dinner, drinks, nothing super fancy. But one of my friends, let's call her Jess, decided she wanted to do a weekend beach trip for her birthday this year. Think Airbnb, group groceries, the whole thing. Problem is, I couldn't go. I had work stuff plus some family obligations that weekend, so I told them early on that I'd have to sit this one out. Everyone said no worries, they'd still go and have fun. Fast forward to last week, they're all back from the trip, and one of the girls sends a message to the group chat saying, "Hey, here's the cost breakdown for the Airbnb and food. It comes out to $200 each, including me." I replied saying, "Just to clarify, I didn't go on the trip, so I'm not in for the $200, right?" And she says, "Well, yeah, but it was for Jess's birthday, so we're splitting the cost evenly like we always do." I said I'm happy to Venmo for a small gift or card like usual when someone can't make it, but I'm not paying $200 for a trip I wasn't even on. That feels kind of nuts. Now a couple people in the group are saying I'm making it weird and that it's about celebrating Jess, not about nickel and diming. Jess herself hasn't said much, but I can tell she feels awkward about it now, and I feel bad for putting her in the middle. But also $200 is a lot for me right now, and I literally didn't go. So now I'm wondering, was I being cheap? Should I have just paid my share to keep the peace?